Mag Shun heard a delicate, childish voice calling out to him, its clarity piercing through the fog in his mind. "Father! Father!" His fingers twitched instinctively, and he suddenly grasped something soft and warm. A primal surge of survival instinct coursed through him, and with a sharp inhale, he bolted upright. His eyes snapped open, only to be met with an unfamiliar sight that left him frozen in place. Where am I? The last thing he remembered was being on his personal yacht, preparing to catch king crabs. He had even gone through the trouble of bringing along the head chef from the Imperial restaurant to ensure the freshest seafood experience. But before he could even cast his net, a monstrous wave had slammed into the stern, hurling him into the freezing ocean. He recalled the sensation of water swallowing him whole, muffled screams, and the tumultuous crash of waves. Then nothing, just silence. Now he was in an elegant, European-style room, gripping the tiny hand of a silver-haired girl who looked no older than 4 or 5. Before he could utter a word, an avalanche of memories flooded his mind, drowning out all external sensations. The overwhelming influx was eerily similar to the moment he had lost consciousness in the ocean. It took him several moments to process what was happening. In his past life, Mag Shun had been a well-known second-generation heir to immense wealth, though he preferred to call himself a gourmet rather than a businessman. Rather than inheriting his family's empire, he dedicated his life to experiencing the finest cuisines the world had to offer. His brutally honest reviews on gourmet restaurants, posted on his microblog, had garnered him tens of millions of followers. His sharp critiques, focused on flaws rather than praise, had earned him both fame and infamy. And, of course, plenty of enemies. Among the countless hate messages he received daily, one had always stood out. "I hope you drown in the sea and spend your next life as a cook." Well, damn. Mag Shun exhaled, his mind racing. Did their wish actually come true? God, are you seriously messing with me? The deluge of memories wasn't just his own. Another life was forcefully integrating into his consciousness, a life both tragic and remarkable. He was no longer simply Mag Shun. He was also Mag Alex. This was a different world, a land of magic and might, where humans coexisted with dragons, demons, elves, orcs, and dwarves. 100 years ago, a fragile peace treaty had ended a millennium of war, yet hostilities still simmered beneath the surface. Skirmishes were common, especially along contested borders. Mag Alex had once belonged to a prestigious lineage, the Alex family, legendary guardians who defended the human borders for generations. But 3 centuries ago, an alliance of orcs and demons had decimated their stronghold, nearly wiping the family from history. By Mag Alex's time, he was the last surviving heir. Despite this, he had risen through the military ranks with breathtaking speed, earning accolades and respect. His prodigious combat skills and indomitable will had made him the youngest griffin rider in the Empire. Some had even believed he would one day restore his family's lost glory and stand at the pinnacle of the continent's power. Then came the fateful night. 3 years ago, he had been ambushed by a coalition of elves, demons, and human magic casters. His hands, the same hands that had wielded his legendary sword, were shattered. His Achilles tendons were severed, ensuring he would never walk properly again. His enemies had left him with a single parting gift, a fragile baby girl, barely a year old. His daughter, born from an elf princess he had once loved. Betrayed by those closest to him, crippled and disgraced, he had escaped with his child to the neutral Chaos City. There, he had changed his face, buried his past, and struggled to build a new life for his daughter. But hardship and misfortune had followed him. A simple cold had been enough to claim his weakened body. And in the end, his death had given Mag Shun a chance to step into this world. A deep sigh escaped Mag Shun's lips as the weight of these memories settled in his heart. He had no burning desire for revenge. Mag Alex's grief, though poignant, did not define him. What lingered most was not hatred but worry. How would this little girl survive without her father? "Rest easy, Mag Alex," he promised silently. "I won't seek vengeance, but I will take care of your daughter." As if in response, The residual presence of Mag Alex faded, leaving only his memories behind. Mag Shin was still himself, but now with a new name and a different past. A small hand squeezed his own, grounding him back to reality. "What's wrong, father?" the little girl asked, her large blue eyes filled with concern. His gaze softened. The girl beside his bed had long silver hair cascading over her shoulders, shimmering like moonlight. Her clear azure eyes, framed by delicate pointed ears, revealed her elven heritage. Her clothing, simple, worn cotton, spoke of their modest life. And yet, despite her ragged attire, she was impossibly cute, the kind of child one instinctively wanted to hold and protect. Amy. This was Mag Alex's daughter. His daughter now. In his previous life, Mag Shun had never married, never had children. He had no experience with fatherhood. But as he looked at Amy, saw the nervous way she clung to his hand, something stirred within him. A strange, unfamiliar warmth. A longing for the connection he had always lacked with his own parents, who had been too preoccupied with their business empire to truly see him. With an awkward movement, he reached out and ruffled her hair. I'm okay, Amy. Don't worry." His voice was hoarse, uncertain. Yet when his fingers brushed through her soft hair, a new, profound sense of belonging took root in his heart. "She's my daughter now." Amy closed her eyes, rubbing her head against his hand like a kitten seeking affection. "Okay, I'm glad you're okay." Then, after a moment, she pouted and tugged at his sleeve. "But father, Amy is hungry. Make something good for me." Magshin's heart melted at her innocent plea. He would have plucked the stars from the sky for her if she asked. But cooking, that was a problem. He had spent his life critiquing food, not making it. His predecessor's memories weren't much help either. Mag Alex's cooking was so awful that even recalling the flavors made him gag. Just as he was about to suggest eating out, a neutral voice suddenly echoed in his mind. "God of Cookery Cultivation System. Initializing." Mag Shin stiffened. "What the hell?" The voice continued. Due to the host's reckless destruction of many restaurants' reputations in his previous life, he has accumulated an immense amount of karmic resentment from chefs worldwide. As a result, the higher powers have assigned the host to this world under the God of Cookery Cultivation System, which will guide the host in mastering the culinary arts. Missions will be assigned irregularly. Rewards will be granted for success. Failure will be met with punishment. A long silence stretched in Mag's mind. "You gotta be kidding me." So he had been reincarnated because his restaurant reviews had been too savage? And now he was being forced to become a chef as some sort of cosmic karma? He suddenly recalled the message he had received the most in his previous life. "Hope you become a cook in your next life." Well, Mag Shin exhaled. I guess everything really does come full circle. Come on, Mag thought. I just wrote a few scathing reviews. Sure, they might have shut down dozens of restaurants, but did that really mean he deserved to be forced into becoming a cook? The idea of being supervised by a system to master the art of cooking left Mag feeling utterly dejected. Cooking a basic meal was one thing, but becoming the so-called God of Cookery? That was an entirely different ordeal. God of Cookery? You have got to be kidding me. Mag fumed internally. "Father, are you okay?" Amy's soft voice broke through his chaotic thoughts. She reached out, her small hand brushing against his cheek. She couldn't quite explain it, but something about her father seemed different today. The warmth of her touch grounded him. Mag took a deep breath, forcing a weak smile onto his face. He searched through his predecessor's memories, then reached into his pockets. His fingers found 2 worn copper coins, and he placed them gently into Amy's tiny hands. "Amy, go buy 2 pancakes. We won't cook tonight." "Really? Amy loves pancakes." Her eyes lit up with pure delight. She eagerly climbed up to kiss his cheek before hopping off the bed, slipping into her shoes, and dashing toward the door, her small legs moving as fast as they could. Mag watched her disappear outside, and his heart clenched. Pancakes were made from coarse grains and cost 1 copper each. For years, they had barely scraped by on the odd jobs Mag Alex had managed to get at the guild. Pancakes were a rare luxury, only bought during festivals. And despite loving them, Amy had never once asked for them herself. This system showed up out of nowhere and now has gone silent? Maag thought bitterly. Bracing himself, he leaned against the bed and slowly pushed himself up. He stumbled towards an old, cracked bronze mirror. What he saw made him frown. His face was familiar but worn, his skin sallow from malnutrition and sun exposure. His long, unkempt brown hair and scraggly beard only added to his disheveled appearance. What a waste of a good figure. Maag sighed. He looked like someone who would scare children. Yet here he was, raising one of the most adorable little girls in the world. His predecessor had nearly given up after that fateful night. If it weren't for Amy, he might have let himself fade away entirely. She's suffered enough. I'll make it up to her, Maag resolved, clenching his fist. He barely felt any strength in his grip. His once formidable body was now weak and frail, a shadow of the night he had been. Even worse, their home was little more than bare walls. A single bed, a thin cloth blanket for Amy, and nothing else of value. And now, with their last 2 coins gone, tomorrow's meal was uncertain. If he was going to survive in this world, he needed to rely on the system. As if on cue, the neutral voice returned. The system has issued the first mission. Own a restaurant. The host must provide the land, and the system will handle all renovations and decor. Time limit, 3 days. Success will be rewarded. Failure will be punished. A restaurant? Maag blinked. But as the system continued, a slow smile crept onto his face. Despite his predecessor's hardships, one good decision had been made. He had bought this 2-story house when he first arrived in Chaos City. It was old, tucked away in a remote corner of Aiden Square, but it was his. The first floor was even designed for commercial use. Maag Alex had refused to rent it out, a decision that had cost them dearly in poverty. But now, that stubbornness might just pay off. Maag shuffled downstairs, gripping the wall for support. The wooden steps groaned beneath him, and several planks were broken. This house was falling apart. By the time he reached the bottom, he was panting heavily. Damn, this body is weak. Once, he had been able to tear orcs apart with his bare hands. Now he was struggling with a staircase. It was no wonder Maag Alex had given up. System, will there be a reward to restore my health if I complete this mission? Maag asked hopefully. Not for now. The system responded blandly. Not for now. Maag's eyes sharpened. That meant there might be a way to recover in the future. If he had to stay in this body, he needed to regain some semblance of strength. Even if he could never match his former prowess, just returning to normal would be enough. In his past life, he had everything: wealth, power, and privilege. But none of it had given him purpose. He had drifted, filling the void with gourmet food and biting critiques. Yet the more he indulged, the emptier he had felt. Now everything had changed. He had Amy. He had a new life. And for the first time, he had a clear goal: recovery and survival. Fine. If I have to learn to cook, I'll do it properly. His mind painted a vivid picture. Aristocrats waiting impatiently in long lines, elves stuffing their mouths with skewers, dragons crowding around hot pots, demons devouring dango. A restaurant full of diverse customers. That sounds interesting. The first floor had plenty of space. If he removed a partition wall, he'd have about 80 square meters to work with. The floor was littered with scraps of wood and dust, and the kitchen was dark and worn. No wonder Maag Alex had refused to rent it out. Well, at least my first mission is already complete. Maag smirked. Time to get to work. I provide this land for the restaurant, he declared in his mind. The system has confirmed that this house belongs to the host, and this location is suitable. Mission complete. Please choose a decoration style. Suddenly, a row of 3D images appeared in his mind. Classic Chinese style, rustic countryside, elegant Western designs. The sheer variety was overwhelming. Since I was reincarnated because of my reviews, I should incorporate a mix of styles. I need versatility. After careful consideration, one style stood out. A European-inspired restaurant, warm brown tones, intricate carvings, and a grand chandelier. Simple, yet elegant wooden tables for 4, long communal seating at the bar, and a semi-open kitchen where guests could glimpse the action. It was cozy, refined, and adaptable. Perfect, Mag said with satisfaction. Then a thought struck him. System, does the renovation include the second floor?
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
System will only decorate the restaurant, and other parts will not be included, answered the system. Mag stroked his chin with his right hand as he used to, took a look at the dilapidated stairs and the dark second floor, and remembered the straw-covered bed he had just left. This is no place for my baby girl to sleep. I shall change it by tonight, he thought. Besides, I didn't feel too much malice from the system. The said punishment must be just something to make me study hard and become the god of cookery sooner. If that is the case, Mag came up with an idea and casually said in his mind, System, I think you've got it wrong. I have provided this whole building for the restaurant, so you have to decorate the whole thing. I will not accept a restaurant under such a shabby house. Besides, if the second floor stayed unrepaired, someday a brick might fall down and kill a customer, which would be very bad, and if he was not killed by it, that would be even worse. I might get killed by the guy who can't be killed by a brick. If that happened, how could I learn to cook and become the god of cookery? It's your choice. The system became silent, as if lost in thought. After a while, it spoke again, because the house is very dangerous. After analyzing, system has decided to reconstruct the whole building and then decorate it. Please choose the decoration style. Mag smiled secretly. As I've expected, these things can be reasoned with. Being led around by the nose would be so not fun. Still, he seemed pretty calm on the outside. The style of the restaurant had been decided, and he chose a style quite like his previous house for the second floor, inconspicuous yet grand and comfortable. There were 3 rooms, 1 lavatory, and 1 bathroom, all on the second floor. Amy's room's main color was pink. So, everything was decided. The reconstruction and decoration will cost 30 seconds. Please leave this house. The countdown begins now from 60 seconds, said the system. Just 30 seconds? Mag froze for an instant, but then he heard the countdown, so he dragged himself towards the door in a hurry. It took him much effort to step across the threshold, and then he turned around and closed the door. It was already dark. Father, are you here to meet me? Amy's cute little voice sounded behind his back. Mag turned around. Amy was looking up at him, 1 brown pancake in each hand, 2 big in her little hands, her long eyelashes fluttering, happiness and joy all over her little face. Father has never come out to meet me before, but today it seems he has come downstairs to meet me, Amy thought happily. Yes, Amy and Father will show you a magic trick. Mag smiled as he went down, took Amy in his arms, and hugged her gently. A magic trick? Amy looked up at Mag, a little confused, but soon her eyes brightened. Is it magic? Can you conjure up a lot of good food, Father? Yes. Father will conjure up a big, beautiful house for you and a pretty restaurant, and will cook a lot of good things for you every day, Mag answered in a soft voice. A little chowhound, all right, Mag thought. Really? Amy seemed unconvinced, her mouth slightly open in surprise. Mag nodded, smiling. Close your eyes and count down from 30. 30, 29. Amy closed her eyes obediently, counting down the number. Mag looked at Amy gently, listening to her cute little voice. The ground started shaking slightly, and he could hear the sound of things hitting the ground now and then, but he didn't look back once. The count of 30 was over in a short while. Amy opened her eyes, expectation all over her little face. Now let's have a look at our new home. Mag took the 2 pancakes from Amy, took her little hand, got up, and turned around with some expectation to look at their new house. A warm light spilled from the door and landed right on the 2 very different figures, 1 big and 1 small. Wow! Amy's mouth was wide open. She gaped at the suddenly changed house that looked like a resplendent palace in the lamplight for a long time before she turned to look at her father and cried out happily, Father, is this really from your magic? The house is so beautiful, like a crystal palace. And look, the rocks are shining. Father, you are amazing. This will be our house from now on, and it's also a restaurant. Mag smiled happily. Nothing feels better than being admired by your own daughter. It was still a 2-story house, but it had changed from a ramshackle log cabin to a European-style villa. Facing the square was a floor-to-ceiling window, and the restaurant in the light of the European crystal chandelier could be seen from outside, cozy and stylish. It seemed the shaking before it caused a little tumult, so Mag took Amy's hand and went inside the door. "Let's go home. Father will tell you more later." "Okay. Father is the best." Amy rubbed her head against Mag's hand, leaping into the doorway happily. Mag turned off the light on his way in. In the meantime, a dwarf with a thick beard stumbled out from the next door. Looking around with his drunken face, he shouted, "Stupid trolls, come dancing here again. Damn it, I'm trying to get some sleep here." Then he went back and slammed the door closed. "Father, is this really our house?" Amy stopped at the door, looked at the grand restaurant, and then raised her head to look at Mag, still not believing her eyes. She had never seen a house so beautiful. The floor was flat and smooth. The chandelier was beautiful and crystal-like, and the aligned tables and chairs were brand new, with exquisite tableware boxes on the table. Deeper inside was a long counter that was higher than her, and behind it was a room, but she couldn't see what was inside. "Sure." Mag nodded, smiling. Then, waving his hand, he said, "This is our new home. The first floor can be used as a restaurant, and the second floor is where we'll live." "Great!" Before Mag could finish his words, Amy had already run away. She extended her arms and ran around the restaurant, and then she found a table on the very inside and took a seat there. "Father, let's have the pancakes here." "Amy is hungry," she said, waving at Mag. "Okay." Mag smiled. Sure enough, food was the most important. The mission on a restaurant is complete. Since the host has required the reconstruction of the parts besides the restaurant, the reward this time is canceled out. System has issued a new mission. Learn the first dish, Yangzhou fried rice 1. The time limit is 3 days. When the host is ready, enter the test field for the god of cookery. The reward this time is strength plus 0.5, and the punishment is strength minus 0.5. The system's voice sounded again. Mag stopped there immediately. A door suddenly appeared in his mind with 4 golden words on it. Yangzhou fried rice. This must be the so-called test field for the god of cookery. To be sure, Mag cared more about the reward it had mentioned. The most urgent matter for him was recovery, because he couldn't hold the kitchen knife still in this condition, to say nothing of cooking. He didn't think the system would arrange a reward to help him recover this quickly, so he was a bit excited all of a sudden. "I don't know what this strength plus 0.5 means to me, but I don't think the system would cheat me. How hard could it be to make the Yangzhou fried rice?" When he was in Yangzhou, he had tried the authentic Yangzhou fried rice a few times in several different restaurants, but his comments then were too mean. To be frank, however, the taste was very good, but at that time, he was so obsessed with criticism that he somehow felt compelled to do that. It was said that one old and famous restaurant was closed for some time after his commentary, but those things were always happening, so he didn't pay much attention to it back then. "Father?" Amy looked at the absent-minded Mag, a little confused. "Coming." Mag quickly suppressed his impulse to open that door in his mind and sat opposite Amy. He handed a pancake to her. "Let's have a taste of Amy's favorite pancake," he said, smiling. Mag took a close look at the pancake. It was about the size of a grown man's hand and 1 centimeter in thickness. It must have been made from flour mixed with corn, mung bean, potato, and many other coarse grains, and then was put into a wood oven to bake. It felt like a rough tile in his hand. "Okay." Amy took the pancake with 2 hands, opened her little mouth, and took a bite. The pancake cracked, and Amy chewed happily like a little hamster, looking satisfied and very cute. "It tastes that good?" Mag wondered. Still, looking at Amy eat gave him such a good appetite that he couldn't help but bring the pancake to his mouth and give it a hard bite. He chewed a few times and got astounded. This must be baked tile. Mag thought. Did the pancake crack? Or did my teeth? It was really a torture to my mouth and choked my throat when trying to swallow. This thing could be used as a lethal weapon. Hundreds were sold in one day? Are you kidding me? This world's food culture is so primitive. Damn, I choked. Mag felt terrible. He dropped the pancake on the table and ran to the sink in the kitchen with hands around his throat. Mag turned on the tap and gulped down a lot of water. Then, Holding onto the edge of the sink with both hands, he took a breath and felt alive again. He'd been already thirsty when he woke up, and instead of drinking some water, he ate that pancake, so he almost choked to death. His throat was still burning even now. If it were his previous life, he would have written a denunciation thousands of words long and forced shut the restaurant for good. How could anyone eat this? Before he knew it, Amy had already come to him. "Father, are you all right?" Amy asked worriedly, tugging at the corner of his clothes. "Yes, Father's okay. Just choked a little." Mag looked down at Amy immediately, reached out to stroke her hair, and put a smile back on his face again. Being worried about and relied on like this warmed his heart, and his resentment towards the pancake abated a lot. He was just a normal father now, and didn't want to go through the things that he did in his previous life. He didn't want to travel again. Letting out a breath, Amy seemed to have relaxed a lot, and then she reproached him with a grim look. "Father, you should eat slowly. Pancakes are good, but you can't rush. Eat bit by bit, and then you won't choke." "Yes, Amy's right." Mag nodded earnestly as he looked into Amy's eyes. Then, the little one went back to her seat contentedly. Mag didn't go out at once, but took a close look at the kitchen. The kitchen was shaped like a strip and had an area of 10 square meters or so. It was fairly spacious. On the cooking bench were 4 built-in gas stoves, and there was also a silver side-suction range hood and a big 4-door refrigerator. This was a very professional modern kitchen, but most space was still vacant. There was only one wide Chinese chef's knife on the knife block, and the likes of pots and pans were nowhere to be found. System. Did you forget to arrange the appliances and kitchenware when decorating? The fridge is also empty. Mag closed the empty fridge. His idea of cooking something random fell through. "The host has no right to use those appliances now," the system answered. "When missions are completed, they will be unlocked one by one. For now, only the necessary ingredients for the recipes that the host has learned will be provided, and they have to be bought first to use." Mag froze for an instant, but he had no choice. "The system really goes out of its way to make me learn to cook. It seems like there is no way to get something else to eat today, and the system said the ingredients need to be bought, so could it be that it will supply all the necessary ingredients?" Mag did a lap around the kitchen, and when he was certain there was nothing to eat here, he could do nothing but pour 2 bowls of plain, boiled water and walk out. It looked like completing missions sooner was very necessary, or all of this was wasted here. Besides, after trying that horrible pancake, he couldn't wait to eat Yangzhou fried rice. Whether giving Amy a chance to try the delicious food from the earth or conquering this world with the Yangzhou fried rice, it was an interesting idea. Mag went through his predecessor's memories again. Because the war among species lasted for 1,000 years, the human food here was a bit like English cuisine, whose cooking methods were simple and crude, boiling and baking. No seasoning was added during cooking. People would just sprinkle some salt or pepper before eating based on their taste. It was just for appeasing hunger and balancing nutrition. After all, in the times of war, one couldn't ask too much. Although the cooking here had undergone certain development through 100 years of peace, those cooks' minds were so bigoted that even if they had tried to improve, their recipes were still too simple, and few cooking methods and dishes that were refreshingly impressive had ever appeared. Even the food-loving humans were this lame in cooking, to say nothing of other species. Elves basically lived on various wild fruits from nature. Dwarves ate more randomly. Anything cooked would do, and demons and orcs even ate their prey alive. Mag curled his lip. It's like an uncultivated land of gourmet food, waiting for me to cultivate it. Looking at Amy gobbling down the pancake with 2 hands, a gentle smile appeared on his face. He had little interest in great causes like bringing the food culture to the masses, but he wanted Amy to eat actual good things and have a comfortable life, so learning to cook was not too hard to accept for him. Mag was really hungry, so he had to soak the pancake in the water and wait for it to soften before eating. He could barely swallow it. Amy's teeth were very good, and the pancake cracked merrily in her mouth. She finished it in just a little while, and then she picked up the bowl, drank a mouthful of water, and gave a content burp. Watching Mag eating the pancake mush with chopsticks, she smiled happily. "Father, the pancake is very tasty, right?" Mag shook his head, lightly touched Amy's cute little nose with his hand, and smiled. "I won't say it's very tasty, Amy, It's just something that can barely appease our hunger. Someday, I'll make you the Manchu-Han Imperial Feast. Manchu-Han Imperial Feast consisted of at least 108 unique dishes from the Manchu and Han Chinese culture during the Qing dynasty. Just for you. You can eat as much as you can. Manchu-Han Imperial Feast? Is it really tastier than the pancake? Amy's eyes were shining with excitement, but then she seemed a little worried as she looked at Mag. The food father has made before tasted weird. Is father really able to make something much, much better than the pancake? Sure. Mag nodded earnestly. And Manchu-Han Imperial Feast is not one dish. It consists of 108 dishes of various exotic food from mountains and seas. It can last you 3 days in a row. He could guess what was in her mind. Apparently, the pancake was the best thing in her eyes. His predecessor's cooking skills were as disappointing as his, and must have left a bad impression on her. 108 dishes of various exotic food from mountains and seas. Amy counted on her fingers, trying to picture the table full of better things than pancakes. Moreover, it could last 3 days. Her eyes became brighter and brighter, and her face was happy with a smile. She jumped off the chair, looked at Mag, and cried out happily, "Wow! Amy wants to have the Manchu-Han Imperial Feast. Make me the Manchu-Han Imperial Feast, father. Amy wants it now." Looking at Amy's eyes full of anticipation, Mag felt a little embarrassed. He couldn't even make the Yangzhou fried rice now. However, he had the god of cookery cultivation system on him, so the Manchu-Han Imperial Feast would be nothing to him in the future. Still, he felt like he had bragged a little too soon as he watched his little girl's eager face. Of course, father also wants to make it for Amy, but our restaurant is not open yet, said Mag apologetically, stroking Amy's hair. There are no ingredients in the kitchen, so I couldn't make so many good things. Well, Amy was a little disappointed, but quickly raised her head again. She took hold of Mag's big hand, patted it on the back, and said soothingly, "It's all right, father. The food you cooked before was good too. When Amy grows up a little, I can go make money and buy a lot of good things for father to let you make the Manchu-Han Imperial Feast." Suddenly, Mag felt a little saddened as he looked at Amy's earnest face. He sniffed and then shook his head with a smile. "Father is different than before now. Making money to support our family is naturally my responsibility, and I'll make the Manchu-Han Imperial Feast for you as I said. It's our little agreement. I promise." Then he held out his little finger. Amy looked up at Mag and blinked her eyes. It seems today's father really is different. His image seems to have become bigger and kinder. She looked at that little finger, held out her own to intertwine with her father's, and then said happily, "Okay, Amy's sure father can do it." Mag picked up Amy's hand. "Let's go upstairs." Amy is already yawning. "Time for bed now," said Mag, smiling. "Amy is not sleepy and can still help father clear the table," said Amy, shaking her head while yawning. "Father will do it later. You can't sleep here, baby girl. Father can't carry you up." Mag held Amy's little hand, feeling a little depressed somehow. She was such a cute little girl, but he couldn't give her a princess hug, let alone lift her up. "No, I have to recover as soon as possible," Mag told himself. The stairs were on the other side of the kitchen. There was a door behind the counter. Separating the restaurant from the living area suited Mag just right. The little thing had been running around looking for someone to check him up when he was unconscious. Now she had finished her dinner, and even though she said she was not sleepy, she almost closed her eyes while climbing up the stairs. Mag took her to the main bedroom. Beside the big bed was a pink crib with rails, and it had everything on it, a small quid, a small pillow, and it also had a small staircase to climb. Seeing the beautiful room and the little bed, Amy's eyes brightened a little, but she was too sleepy. Taking off her shoes, she climbed into her little bed and rested her head on the warm and comfortable pillow, and then, tightly holding on to Mag's finger, she said happily, "Father is so amazing. The bed is so soft and comfy. Amy loves it. And the Manchu-Han Imperial Feast must be good too, right? Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, you will be able to try Father's love breakfast." "Now close your eyes and sleep," said Mag, smiling. "Love breakfast, it must be very good," murmured Amy, and then she closed her eyes and fell asleep quickly. Standing by her bed, Mag looked at Amy in her sound sleep and softly stroked the hair off her face, and then he pulled back his hand and tucked her up. After that, he stooped down and softly kissed Amy's hair. "Don't worry. Father will certainly make you the Manchu Han Imperial feast." Then, Mag sat on the big bed beside Amy's crib and closed his eyes to look at the door in his head, thinking about how to open it. To his surprise, a little man that looked exactly like him appeared in his head, and he was under his total control, just like his own body. Mag hesitated for a little while, and then opened the door that had the words Yangzhou fried rice on it. Suddenly, Mag felt a white light flash across his eyes, so he closed them subconsciously, and when he opened them again, his whole spirit was already sucked into that little man. The door behind him vanished, and he was standing in an oblong kitchen just like his own. Everything was to the same scale. Mag's eyes brightened. "Well, this is great. When I go out, I don't have to familiarize myself with the kitchen again." When he lifted his leg to walk, he got surprised one more time. The body that had no strength before was able to move normally now. He couldn't help jumping a few times. Although he still felt a little weak and feeble, he was clearly much better than his useless self before. "System, what's this?" Mag cried out, a little excited. Could it be that the system has kindly recovered my health? "The host is now in the condition of strength plus 0.5. Please try your best to complete the mission. The strong body is waiting for you," answered the system. "Now I see." Mag looked at the strength sheet that simultaneously appeared in his head. The strength of a normal person was 2, and Mag's strength after his treatment was 1. Half disabled. Now his strength was 1.5, unable to lift a heavy sword, yet capable of holding the kitchen knife. The strength limits of humans in this world were much higher than on the Earth. When a human reached the strength of 4, he could take on a normal orc, and when he reached 10, he could even knock down a forest troll with a single punch. Mag Alex's strength at that time should have reached 8, a very powerful man among humans. "Welcome to the test field for the god of cookery." The voice of the system sounded again. "System will provide you with experience of the authentic Yangzhou fried rice. Only when your cooking has passed the authentication of this system are you allowed to leave this place. The standard is all the requirements you've brought up when you commented the Yangzhou fried rice." "System, I think I have misheard something. What did you say the standard was again?" asked Mag tentatively. "All the requirements you've brought up when you commented on the Yangzhou fried rice," answered the system with no emotion. "I think the official standard that has been announced before is good enough. Maybe we can follow that one?" said Mag. "Try to negotiate. The standard cannot be changed. Please complete the mission as soon as possible," refused the system. "Then what about other dishes?" Mag was a little worried. "They will all follow the standard of your comments before. F***CK. Mag almost broke down. He had thought the system had no malice and could be used as an assistant, but now he knew he'd been utterly wrong. Using the requirements he'd brought up as the standard himself was certainly full of malice. Thinking that his viciously picky requirements would be used on himself, a F***CK wasn't enough to express his feelings. "I've definitely reaped what I've sown. Perhaps few people could meet that standard even if they're the masters who specialize in the Yangzhou fried rice," Mag thought. "Sure enough, I can't be too optimistic. This is a system God made for those cooks to specially mess with me. But now that I'm already in here, I can't get out until the mission is finished." Mag looked at the glittering experience bag that had appeared in his head and took a deep breath to make himself calm down. Since there were no two ways about it, he chose to face it. Besides, he had already promised Amy to make love breakfast for her. Thinking about Amy's happy face as she ate the fried rice, Mag was filled with anticipation, and his face had become determined. Mag tried to use his mind to touch the glittering experience bag, and then the experience of Yangzhou fried rice was infused into his head. The selection and processing of the ingredients and the procedures of cooking, etc., everything had fused with his mind as if he had known how to do it from the very beginning. This simple? Mag was completely taken aback. He had thought the system would make things difficult for him, but instead of doing that, it gave such a big surprise straight to him. It was like he had inherited the skills of a Yangzhou fried rice master, so he thought he was able to make a bowl of first-class Yangzhou fried rice with good taste, color, and aroma right away. He had grown from a freshman in cooking straight to an old hand. It was simply cheating. Mag sorted through the things in his head before walking to the fridge confidently. He opened it and found every ingredient in order. Rice, tree mushrooms, ham, winter bamboo shoots, shrimp, green peas, eggs, and green onions. It had everything he needed to make the Yangzhou fried rice. Cook the rice first, and then process the ingredients. Fry the rice at last. The procedures in Mag's head were very clear, and watching the ingredients in the fridge, his eyes brightened. He grabbed some rice with his hand. It was very fine and smooth. It had a bluish-white color, was plump, and was glittering and translucent in the lamplight, much better than the Thai fragrant rice he had usually had. A sweet fragrance tickled his nose. Then he looked to the shrimp in the water. Their translucent bodies even had the uncommon striations of lilac color. They were swimming merrily, looking full of vigor and wildness. Winter bamboo shoots still had a little black soil on it. The salt frosting on the ham was not removed yet. The gray mushroom should be some kind of tree mushroom. Eggs were much bigger than the usual ones, a little earth yellow in color, and there was still some dew on the green onions. That was the least judgment he could make as a chowhound that had tried almost all the Michelin-starred restaurants. These ingredients were definitely high class, but how high? He couldn't tell exactly, but regardless of that, these things were for him to train, so he didn't hesitate and started rinsing the rice. Mag had thought that, with this amazingly good and detail-oriented experience, it shouldn't be too hard to handle that Yangzhou fried rice. But when he'd started processing the ingredients, he found it was not as easy as he had expected. Although he was quite clear on how to wield the knife, when he started cutting, he found that his hands' movements were nowhere near meeting the requirements and standards in his head. In order to make the texture of the fried rice smoother, every ingredient had to be cut into the same size as the rice grain. So high cutting skills were a necessity, which was a very difficult challenge before Mag. He couldn't even cut them into slices evenly, and had to repeat over and over again. Mag looked at the slices of the bamboo shoot, which were thin on one side and thick on the other, let out a sigh, and continued to work on another one. After finishing the cutting of the 20th bamboo shoot, Mag picked up 2 slices, compared them carefully before his eyes, and then nodded contentedly. Seems better now. When he lowered his head and took a look at the bamboo shoot slices he'd made, which had filled a basin, he couldn't help but feel rather emotional. Being a cook turns out to be this hard. I've already had the standard cutting skills in my head, but after all the exercise, this is just as good as I can do. Those who start from scratch surely have to learn the cutting for many years. Thinking about the comments he had written to criticize those cooks, he felt embarrassed for the first time. Now that those comments had become the standard he should meet to complete the mission, it looked like he was paying his price. System, at this pace, I'll have to spend weeks on the cutting skills alone. It's simply impossible for me to complete the mission in 3 days, no? Mag asked in his mind as he stopped his hands. In the test field, time is on a scale of 365:1, answered the system. 1 year here is just a day in the outside world. Besides, you need no sleep and rest in this space, and you won't feel tired. The ingredients are limitless. Hope you're determined to be the god of cookery. Complete the mission and walk out of here soon. What? Mag was a bit surprised. Even the time scale can be changed here. This test field is really something. However, in this enclosed kitchen, with the sense of weariness gone, if the only thing can be done here is cooking repeatedly, the weak-willed will go insane in no time. No, I have to get out before Amy wakes up in the morning and make her the perfect Yangzhou fried rice for breakfast. Mag quickly suppressed the restlessness in his mind. This was his commitment to Amy, and it had to be kept. He took a look at the calendar and got back to cutting the bamboo shoot. Now he had 4 months and didn't need any sleep or rest. So if it were exchanged to the standard 8 working hours a day like in real life, he would have 1 whole year, which was quite sufficient for him to master the Yangzhou fried rice, especially with the perfect experience already in his head. Mag had forgotten about time. The bamboo shoot changed from thick slices into even thin ones in his hand, then into even fine shreds, and at last into small cubes the size of a rice grain. He was getting better by the minute. Mag went from easy to hard ingredients, from bamboo shoots to tree mushrooms, and then to the ham and shrimp. With his proficiency improving, his cutting skills were advancing quickly as well, and by comparing them with the experience in his head, he was making rapid progress. Even the live and kicking shrimp were peeled easily in his hand, and then they got chopped into small cubes the size of a rice grain. On the 100th day, Maai was just plating the fried rice neatly from the wok with a ladle. He put down the wok while turning off the gas, smiling confidently. "System, I think this one should do." The Yangzhou fried rice fresh from the wok. The rice grains were separated clearly, with each one perfectly coated with a layer of golden eggs. Green peas, white shrimp, gray tree mushrooms, red ham. The ingredients with different colors were perfectly mixed together, and the mixed color was not in a mess at all. Instead, it felt rather lively and harmonious. On the top was a small handful of chopped green onions, making perfection still more perfect. The aroma of every ingredient mixed together and tickled Maai's nose, making him swallow a little saliva. The system was silent for a while, and then said, according to the host's standards before, 1. Rice grains have to be clearly separated, with each perfectly coated with eggs. Achieved. 2. The color has to be lively and harmonious and whet the appetite. Achieved. 3. The texture has to be smooth, the taste has to be delicious, and the firmness has to be moderate. It all has to be tasty, smooth, and refreshing. Achieved. 4. The aroma has to be tempting and recognizable to a certain extent. Achieved. All the 4 standards have been achieved at once. Congratulations, you have mastered the authentic Yangzhou fried rice. Mission is complete. You are rewarded with Strength plus 0.5. Meanwhile, the right to buy the ingredients for the Yangzhou fried rice is unlocked, and so is the right to use the matching kitchenware. Maai clenched his fist hard. A sense of achievement arose in his heart. He looked at the fried rice before him, and suddenly felt like weeping somehow. He couldn't remember the last time when he had this feeling, the feeling after trying so hard to accomplish something. Sure enough, achieving goals made people feel the best. That being said, what excited him most was that he could finally make Amy a bowl of Yangzhou fried rice with good taste, color, and aroma. Thinking about the cute face of his little girl eating, he was filled with anticipation. System, can I try it? Looking at that fried rice, Maai, who felt no hunger at all since he'd entered the test field, suddenly felt a little hungry. The host will be automatically sent out of the test field in 5 minutes, answered the system. 5 minutes is enough. Maai wasted no time before taking out a spoon from the kitchen cupboard and spooning the rice into his mouth. With just a few chews, his eyes brightened immediately. The fragrance of chopped green onions and eggs tickled his nose. The texture of grain-sized shrimp and ham was so smooth, and the egg-coated rice had a sweet flavor after being well chewed. Taste of every ingredient melted in his mouth and tickled his taste buds. Even when it was all swallowed, his mouth was still full of aroma. This taste was just incredible. For the first time, he realized the Yangzhou fried rice could be this good. 1 spoon was nowhere near enough. Maai finished the whole plate in no time, like a whirlwind sweeping away the scattered clouds. He licked the last egg-coated rice grain into his mouth, content, but at the same time he'd like seconds. It was just so enticing. Amy would definitely love this. As for the chow hounds on Norland Continent, I'm sure no one is able to resist this. Putting down the spoon, Maai recollected the pleasant flavor of this fried rice. His depression from repeating the same thing for 100 days disappeared. Instead, he felt rather upbeat and refreshed. 5 minutes was over soon. Suddenly, Maai felt a white light flash across his eyes, and when he opened them up again, he was already lying on his own bed. He sat up immediately, turned his head, and saw that Amy was sleeping soundly on her little pink bed. Seeing that, his dreamy feelings died down slowly. Then, he took a look at his hands with a pleasant surprise and clenched his fists. It felt the same as in the test field. The body that couldn't even clench one fist before had recovered a lot. He had no trouble with normal activities and cooking now. The system is pretty reliable after all. Maai got out of his bed, stretched his limbs, and took a look at the alarm clock on the nightstand. It was already 5 in the morning. He lowered his head and saw his clothes were dirty. So he walked to the wardrobe and opened it, but he found nothing but a chef's suit and clothing for a little girl inside. The chef's suit consisted of a white shirt with 2 lines of neat black buttons, a pair of black slacks, an apron with black and white stripes, and a pair of black flat shoes. The girl's clothing consisted of a black dress, a pair of pantyhose, and a pair of little white shoes. All was clean and simple. Maag took his suit to the bathroom and gave himself a thorough bath. Then, he used scissors to cut his wild, long, curly brown hair short and neat. His whiskers also got cut by the scissors, and then shaved clean. Only a faded mustache remained. Now that's more like it. Touching his angular face, Maag looked at himself that had totally changed in the mirror and smiled. After a little tidying up, he had successfully changed from a messy, homeless guy into a mature and handsome man. Now, he looked very much like his previous self. The only thing different was the shape. His scrawny figure right now looked so weak and delicate. He had to eat much and work out a lot from now on. After his little narcissism trip, Maag changed into that chef suit. A little tidying, and he looked somewhat like a chef in the mirror. "Hello, Maag," Maag said to himself in the mirror with a serious look. But on second thought, he smiled in spite of himself. "Or should I call you Alex?" Maag cleaned up the bathroom, took a look at Amy, who was still in her sleep, and then he put the little dress, pantyhose, and her white shoes on one side of the bed. When picturing a very cute Amy in this dress, Maag couldn't help smiling happily. On his way out, he took a set of wash supplies for children, opened the door, and went downstairs softly. Maag couldn't be more familiar with his kitchen. The cooking bench, which contained no kitchenware last night, was now equipped with everything he needed to make Yangzhou fried rice. He opened the fridge and found all the necessary ingredients inside, and in the glass tank beside the fridge, shrimp were swimming merrily. About time I showed my true cooking skills and made Amy a love breakfast. Maag washed his hands and began to rinse the rice. "Father." Not long after, on the second floor, Amy turned over in her sleepiness, but didn't feel her father's body nearby as usual. She opened her heavy-lidded eyes, sat up, looked at the unfamiliar room, and froze for a long time. Then she remembered that this was the new house her father had conjured up last night. But her father on the big bed was nowhere to be found now. So she got a little worried, and holding the small rails, she tried to get up. However, just halfway through, she got attracted by the black dress on the side of the bed. Her eyes lit up, and she picked up the little dress with a pleasant surprise and rubbed it against her face. It felt very soft and smooth. She murmured happily, "Father must have conjured up this dress for me. It's so pretty. Amy loves it." Maag didn't know that his little girl had woken up. He put the rice in the rice cooker, which had very high power, and the rice was ready in a short while. Then, he removed it from the cooker. The rice grains were clearly separated even though they were just cooked, all glittering and translucent, and had a pleasant aroma. Maag couldn't help but murmur, "What is this rice? I think I could eat 2 bowls of it even if it was just plain rice." The shrimp were very good too. Even if they were simply boiled in water, perhaps the taste would still be very delicious. Maag took the needed amount of each ingredient for a bowl of Yangzhou fried rice and washed them clean. His face became very serious the instant he held the kitchen knife. This was what he had learned in the test field. Cooking needed absolute devotion. It was an attitude that every cook should have. Maag wielded the Chinese chef's knife skillfully. Whether it was the crisp and young winter bamboo shoot or the hard-shell shrimp, they were all starting to become even grains to be used later. After tens of thousands of times of practicing cutting, he had become very skilled. Of course, no cook had the luxury of practicing his cutting skills on these things. Maag poured some oil into the wok and then added every ingredient in the proper order. A strong aroma pervaded the whole kitchen, went out of the door, and found its way through the unclosed door to the stairs, and then into the bedroom, whose door was left ajar. Sitting on the bed, Amy was giggling in the new dress that she had changed into by herself with great effort. It was the first time that she wore such a pretty dress. It was so comfortable and softly touched her body as if she were dressed in a cloud, fluffy, yet warm. Then Amy smelled that aroma, and her big blue eyes that had been a little drowsy before immediately brightened. She took a deep sniff and said, What a good smell. Perhaps father is making something delicious. Having no time to wear the pantyhose that looked like long socks in her eyes, Amy quickly climbed off her bed, put on her white shoes, and ran towards the door on her short legs. When Amy opened up the door, the aroma became even stronger. She swallowed her saliva, while her little tummy began crying out. She had never smelled this kind of aroma before. Even the smell from the roast goose restaurant on the side of the square was not even half as good as this one. Her steps became even lighter when she went downstairs. She wished she could fly into the kitchen and see what her father was making. Amy walked into the kitchen. It smells so good. Father, what are you making? Before she could finish her words, she saw Mag's back in a plain and simple chef suit with black and white stripes on it, and she found that his long curly hair and whiskers were gone. Amy was stunned speechless. Her blue eyes were wide open and filled with surprise. It's Father? Mag heard some noise and looked to the door with a little surprise. Amy is already awake. His little girl had changed into the black Gothic dress and was wearing a pair of white shoes with little pink butterflies on them. After a night's sleep, an ahogue one had appeared among her smooth silver hair. Her surprised face and slightly open mouth were so cute and lovely. It looked like she was shocked by his current look. Mag smiled and said, "Why, just a night's sleep and you don't recognize father anymore?" Amy blinked her eyes and cried out happily, "It's really father." Father's long curly hair has become short and good-looking. The bristling whiskers are gone. His clothes have become clean and neat, and the smile on his face is so warm and pleasant. More importantly, father seems to have become taller, like a giant. His straight back looks like a big tree. Father seems to have become taller, as tall as a big tree and better looking. So handsome. Amy came close to Mag happily. "I'm taller?" Mag lowered his head and took a look at himself. "Maybe it's because I have straightened my hunchback and changed into fit and stiff clothes. That must be why I look taller. Sure, becoming better looking makes me happier. And, as I have expected, little girls love neat and clean mature men." Soon, the little girl was attracted by the wok that Mag was working with. She stood on tips of her toes to try to look inside while asking in surprise, "But father, what's in the wok? Why does it smell so good and even better than the roast goose?" "Amy is hungry. This is Yangzhou fried rice. We'll be eating this for breakfast. Over there is a pink toothbrush and a cup. Amy, go brush your teeth and wash your face. When you finish, breakfast will also be ready." "Okay," said Mag, smiling. He tried to make his voice softer. In his previous life, he'd been condescendingly cold to others and never smiled when speaking. Now, he was trying to adapt himself to being a gentle and kind father. He wanted to give Amy the best life he could. "Okay." Amy nodded obediently and took another look into the wok before walking towards the toothbrush and cup unwillingly. Then, she brushed her teeth for the first time under the guidance of Mag. Mag cooked the rice carefully. When it was done, he turned off the gas and removed the rice from the wok. A plate of bright-colored Yangzhou fried rice was ready. Amy had just brushed her teeth and ran to Mag quickly. Watching the Yangzhou fried rice with different colors mixed together, her eyes brightened immediately. "Wow, it's so pretty. Father is so amazing," she praised him earnestly. "Yes, I agree." Mag nodded. He couldn't help smiling, feeling an overwhelming sense of achievement. Amy leaned forward to take in the smell, and then couldn't refrain from swallowing her saliva. She looked up at Mag and pouted. "It smells so good, Father. Amy wants to eat Yangzhou fried rice." Looking at Amy acting like a spoiled child, Mag's heart nearly melted. He wanted very badly to say, "It's all yours," but he held back his words. He wiped the foam off the corner of her mouth and shook his head. "Not now. You have to wash your hands first before eating from now on. Then let's hurry, Father." Amy took Mag's hand and dragged him towards the sink. Mag raised an eyebrow. It seemed something was wrong. He got disliked by the little thing. After Amy had washed her hands, Mag took the fried rice to the table that they used yesterday. Amy was already waiting on her seat, her hand holding a small spoon, and eyes looking at the plate of fried rice in Mag's hand, full of expectation ever since he'd walked out of that door. Mag put down the plate and smiled as he stroked his little girl's head. Go ahead and eat now. The fried rice fresh out of the wok was still steaming, and the aroma of eggs and green onions tickled Amy's nose, so she couldn't help but take a deep sniff and look at the fried rice before her with shining eyes. Each rice grain was coated with golden eggs, as if they were shining. Moreover, not only golden color, there was also green, red, white, various colors were mixed together. Amy couldn't refrain from swallowing saliva. She looked up at Mag and asked in surprise, "Father, did you unhook the rainbow and cook it?" "What?" Mag had just sat down opposite her and got surprised by her words. He took a look at the multicolored fried rice. It did seem like a shattered rainbow. Childishness was indeed the most interesting thing in the world. Mag nodded, smiling. "Yes, this is rainbow fried rice. Go on and try it, Amy." "No, Father has to taste it first, and then I'll eat." Amy shook her head and spooned a full spoon of fried rice, and a bit strenuously handed it to Mag. "You can eat first, Amy. Father is not hungry. I'll make some more later." Mag shook his head, smiling. "No, Father woke up so early to make breakfast for Amy, so you must be hungrier than me." Amy pouted. She held the spoon up, and it shook a little bit because she had only a little strength, but she had no intention at all to take it back. "Well then, I'll eat one spoon of it first." Mag smiled and ate the rice on the spoon. With the delicious fried rice down his mouth, a warm feeling filled up his heart. His little girl had secretly swallowed her saliva several times already, but still she insisted that he should eat first. It felt so good to be cared about. "Then I'll start eating now." Amy happily took back her spoon, spooned another spoonful, and looked at the rice solemnly. "I'm sorry, Rainbow, but I have to eat you now." Mag smiled involuntarily. The little thing was so innocent. He rested his chin in one hand and looked at Amy, full of expectation and a little nervous. He thought this fried rice was very delicious. Still, it was a kind of food from the earth, after all, and was totally different from this world's cuisine. He was not sure whether Amy would like it or whether she would get used to this taste. No sooner had she put the rice in her mouth than her eyes brightened. The little pointy ears, half covered by her silver hair, moved a little bit. The tender rice was coated by delicious eggs, tender shrimp, salty ham, sweet tree mushrooms, and crisp winter bamboo shoots. All the delicious tastes were perfectly mixed in this one spoonful of rice. The texture was so smooth, and the strong and sweet flavor melted in her mouth. It was just too good to put into words. Compared to this fried rice, she felt the pancake, which had been her favorite, was like a stone. It had become nothing to her, and maybe she wouldn't eat it anymore. After the first spoonful, she couldn't refrain from taking the second. One spoonful after another, she just couldn't stop her hands, never feeling happier than now. The rainbow fried rice is so good. Father is so amazing. Amy didn't forget to mumble this when she got a chance, though her eyes were fixed on the plate the whole time. She kept on stuffing herself after that and didn't intend to stop halfway and take a breather at all. "Slow down. Take your time," said Mag. He stood up, went to pour a glass of water, and put it beside her. Looking at the adorable shaking of his girl's little pointy ears, Mag smiled contentedly. Amy's reaction said everything. She was very satisfied with this fried rice. The dull and dry repeated practice that he had done in the test field paid off in the best way possible at this very moment. Merely watching her eating made it all worthwhile. "Guess I'll fall in love with cooking soon enough," Mag said to himself. Looking at the little thing eating made him feel such a strong sense of achievement. She was eating so greedily that he felt a little hungry too. When she had eaten it all, Amy held the plate with both hands and licked it. Even the last bit of shrimp meat was not spared. She put the plate down and said with a lot of expectation, "Give me seconds, Father. Amy wants to eat more rainbow fried rice. It's so delicious." "Seconds?" Mag was a little surprised and took a look at the empty plate. The amount he had given her was a portion for an adult, and Amy had not only eaten everything, but also wanted more. "Yes, Amy wants more?" Amy nodded, blinked her eyes, and looked at Mag, full of expectation. However, on second thought, she looked to the kitchen with a little hesitation and said, "But Father didn't eat yet. Do we have enough rice?" "Amy doesn't have to eat more." "Sure, we have a lot of rice." and Amy's fried rice was eaten a mouthful by Father. That must be why Amy's still hungry. I'll go make some more and eat it with Amy. Okay. Mag rubbed Amy's hair, smiling. The little thing was always thinking about him. So considerate. Mag searched in his memory and found out that Amy could eat 2 bowls of food like an adult even though she was only 4. Besides, it was the first time that she had had such delicious fried rice, so it was quite understandable that she would want seconds. Still, Mag didn't want her to be stuffed. It was just early morning, so he decided to give her a half bowl of rice or so. Okay, Father's cooking is so good today. Amy looked at Mag as she clapped her hands, eyes full of adoration. Mag stood up, cleared the table, and prepared to go to the kitchen. Then, the system's voice sounded suddenly. The bonus of using ingredients for free is over. From now on, for every ingredient system supplied, you have to pay first before using it. The following is the price list. Please check. Pay. Mag was taken aback, and suddenly recalled that when he'd been in the test field, doing his mission, the system had indeed mentioned something about the right to buy ingredients. However, at that time, he'd been too focused on the fried rice to mind that. He had thought the ingredients were supplied for free by the system, and hadn't expected to pay for them. Mag calmed down and looked at the price list, but his eyes immediately opened wide from shock. Holy sh*t. System, there must be some problem with the price. The price is no problem, answered the system calmly. The shrimp cost 50 copper coins each. I can live with that, but you want 1 copper for 1 green pea. Are you ripping me off? Mag raised an eyebrow. On the list it said, ingredients needed for the Yangzhou fried rice. Shrimp, 50 copper coins each, needs 2. Eggs, 30 copper coins each, needs 2. Ham, 40 copper coins apiece. Tree mushrooms, 30 copper coins for each cap. Winter bamboo shoots, 30 copper coins apiece. Rice, 30 copper coins per each bowl. Green peas, 1 copper coin per each grain, needs 5. Green onions, 1 copper coin for each, needs 1. Total, 296 copper coins. The cost of ingredients of 1 plate of Yangzhou fried rice can buy me 296 pancakes. Mag was speechless. How can I do business with such expensive ingredients? Amy looked at the absent-minded Mag, who was still holding the plate by the table. What's wrong, Father? Amy asked, not understanding her father's behavior. Oh, nothing, Amy. Mag shook his head quickly, smiling. Here, drink some water and play in the restaurant. Father will make fried rice. He pushed the glass to Amy and walked towards the kitchen at a fast pace. What a pretty crystal glass. Amy held the transparent glass in her hands happily. She leaned on the table and looked at the glass from left and then right, not bearing to drink from it. When Mag had just entered the kitchen, the calm voice of the system sounded again. The ingredients in the kitchen are all from System's farm, fishery, and pasture, which are located across the continent. Their price is the same as at their source. No transportation cost is charged. The price is absolutely reasonable. You can rest assured of that. How is it reasonable that 1 green pea costs 1 copper? Mag curled his upper lip. If he didn't worry about the malicious punishment that might come from displeasing the system, he would have started criticizing it with his vicious tongue. The monetary system on the Norland Continent was being improved over the past 100 years. In the time of the war among species, the trade had mainly been done through barter, and after the peace treaty was signed, the economy had been developing and the currency had emerged again. After a lot of fierce competition and rivalry, the currency issued by the Roth Empire came out on top because of its abundant supply, reasonable exchange rate, high stability, hard devaluation, and universal popularity. The most worthless currency was copper coins. Mag searched in his memory and found that, in this chaos city, the purchasing power of a copper coin was more or less the same as 1 yuan. 10 copper coins could be changed into 1 silver coin. 10 silver coins was the same as 1 gold coin, and 10 gold coins equal 1 dragon coin. If it were his previous life, a bowl of Yangzhou fried rice that cost 296 yuan would have been nothing to him, but he was the owner of this restaurant now. The ingredients alone cost him as much as 296 copper coins, so he should sell the Yangzhou fried rice for 500 copper coins each? If so, the customers might tear him to pieces. After all kinds of species were living here in this chaos city. The green peas come from an uninhabited plain in the interior of the twilight forest, which belongs to orcs. The sunlight there is present for as long as 16 hours every day. Each head of the green pea can only produce 100 grains, in which only 10 best grains are selected to be sold. They have a sweet taste and are very nutritious. The shrimp come from the Starro Sea northeast of the Roth Empire. They are purple-striped shrimp that only exist on the Sorrow Islands. The waters there are very complicated and a haunt of sirens. No humans fish there yet. Only 100,000 shrimp are produced each year. Their meat is very delicious. The rice comes from the interior plain in the wind forest, which belongs to Elves. It is irrigated by the underground branch of the Spring of Life. No chemical fertilizer or pesticide is used. Each mu, 1.mu, is a Chinese unit of area. 1 mu equals 0.165 acres. 1 acre is roughly 4,000 meters square. Of land can only yield 300 gene one of rice. Mag listened as the names of places that were far apart came out of the system's mouth one by one, and also all sorts of strange farming and breeding methods. His mouth slowly widened, leaving aside growing green peas in the lands of the orcs, whose territorial consciousness was so strong. The place near Sorrow Islands was famous for being deadly waters, more or less like the Bermuda on the Earth, perhaps. People said that even giant dragons would get lost in it, and the system was raising shrimp in those waters. As for the Spring of Life, it was Elves' holy spring, and the system was using it for irrigation. Though the water was guided from just an underground branch, it still was such extravagance that perhaps Elves hadn't tried it themselves. As to others, the tree mushrooms were planted indigenously on Demon's Ghost Islands. The ham was made from shadow boars, which only existed in Forest Trolls land. The winter bamboo shoots were dug from the black soil on Vic Mountain, which was Goblin's holy land. The eggs were produced in the hennery near Isen Castle, which was dwarves' place of habitation. Even the green onions were planted on the Saline Alkali farm near Lordimere Harbor. Their taste was said to be better than the normal ones. Mag's predecessor had been a general of the Roth Empire's vanguard, so he knew very well about the landscape and important regions of the continent. He didn't inherit his family business in his previous life, but he got influenced a lot growing up, so he could easily figure out how precious these ingredients actually were by comparing them with his memories. Were the purple-striped shrimp that cost 50 copper coins each expensive? No, Mag wouldn't have found it expensive even if the price increased tenfold. These ingredients couldn't cost this little even at their source. They were the best of the best that couldn't be bought by money. Besides, bringing them here made their price even higher. The technologies in freshness retaining and air transportation were not very advanced here. People living in the inland cities had no chance to eat fresh seafood unless they had magic casters keep them alive with magic during the whole transportation. However, this was even more extravagant than the Emperor Xuanzong of Tang's Lychees one. Mag seemed to recall that the royal family of the Roth Empire had a group of people exclusively responsible for seafood transportation, and they used a large bird known as Red Hawk to carry the seafood. It could be called the air transportation in this world. A fresh sea fish in the capital city could fetch 100-fold more than in the harbor. A shrimp, which was also the precious purple-striped shrimp, in this inland chaos city was not exactly overpaid if some wealthy customer wanted it for 1,000 copper coins. Now, do you still suspect that System's ripping you off? Asked the System. No. System, you're too kind. Perhaps you're the kindest man I'll ever meet, answered Mag sincerely. In fact, it could be said that doing business like this was a little too kind. Looking at those ingredients in the fridge, Mag came up with a bold idea all of a sudden. He asked tentatively, System, maybe I could sell ingredients instead of opening restaurant. I think I can make money quicker this way. The ingredients supplied by the System can only be used in the restaurant and are not allowed to be sold, answered the System calmly. And then it said, New mission. The host has to buy 3,000 gold coins worth of ingredients with cash in 10 days. Completing the mission will unlock the new recipe, Laji Rujiamo 1. Failing, it will lead to strength minus 0.5. 3,000 gold coins. Mag had expected that system would not allow him to sell the ingredients, but the new mission almost made him cry out. 3,000 gold coins, that was 300,000 copper coins. A huge amount of money. Besides, that was not turnover, but expense on ingredients. The ingredients of one plate of Yangzhou fried rice cost 3 gold coins, which meant he had to sell 1,000 plates in 10 days. If he failed, his strength would decrease by 0.5, and he would go back to being half disabled again. System, are you trying to make me a cripple again on purpose? Mag couldn't refrain from complaining. Although he was very confident in his Yangzhou fried rice, still, for a restaurant that hadn't opened yet, it was simply impossible to sell 1,000 plates in 10 days. On the Norland Continent, fried rice was not a prevalent way of cooking. At least he didn't remember eating this thing in his predecessor's memory. The mission has been issued. Please complete it as soon as possible. The system had no intention at all to negotiate with Mag. Well, we can leave that aside. Mag realized that there was no room for negotiations, so, smiling, he said, System, right now, I have no money at all and haven't had any breakfast. What do you say to giving me some more free ingredients? If I starve to death, it would be an end to our God of Cookery quest. Given the host situation, System has launched the Elephant Check Later project, answered the system. You can spend 3,000 copper coins in advance based on your credit, and pay it back before 10th of the following month. You can also choose to pay by installments, but there will be certain interest. Mag froze for a while, and then suddenly remembered. This is the same as the Ant Check Later one. He hadn't used that credit product before, but he's somewhat new about it. The system was pretty user-friendly, yet it was also making every effort not to let him have anything free. 3,000 copper coins can buy enough ingredients for 10 plates of Yangzhou fried rice. If I could sell some in the following few days, I would be okay. Otherwise, maybe the system will launch its usury project. System, isn't my credit limit too low? I used to use Centurion card, which has no limit at all. You only allow me 3,000. Are you questioning my credit capability? Mag was a little offended. This limit is a meticulously calculated figure based on your current situation. Please make money fast, and as the money spent on ingredients increases, so will the credit limit, answered the system. Mag gave it the second thought and found what the system had just said was true. He only had this land. All the other things were provided by the system. He was lucky to have even 3,000. He had been used to an extravagant life, but being economical was also fun in its own way. As long as the restaurant started operating, his fried rice would surely gradually become popular, and he wouldn't have to worry about money then. Give me the ingredients for 1 plate of fried rice first, Mag said in his mind, and took them out from the fridge. He had known that these ingredients were good, but couldn't exactly tell why. After learning of their origins from the system, he felt the rice in his hands was filled with the essence from the spring of life. Since it was irrigated by the water from the spring of life, will it extend life? Mag asked suddenly, full of curiosity. System is just using a small underground branch of the spring of life, and it will be diluted before irrigation. It could strengthen your body in some way if you eat it every day, but won't extend your life, answered the system. Good enough for me. Mag nodded. His body was his weakest spot right now, so he would take every opportunity to toughen it up. While removing the remaining rice from the cooker, he asked casually, Do you sell the water from the spring of life? Not now, answered the system. That means it might sell it in the future. Mag raised an eyebrow. He had almost figured out the system's way of speaking. It's advantageous to me. When I have money, I'll drink it every day like herbal tea, and I'll be strong like an ox by then. The ingredients in this world were very different from the ones on the earth. Although they might look the same outwardly, because of the special environment they were grown in, their quality got improved a lot. They could help strengthen the body or stimulate potential. Of course, Mag had to figure these things out slowly by himself. He was already looking forward to seeing the result when the recipes on the earth met the ingredients here. The mouthful of fried rice he just ate was swallowed down so fast that he didn't taste anything special. He decided to taste it carefully later. Processing the ingredients skillfully, Mag started thinking about the new mission. The cost of a plate of fried rice was 296 copper coins, and given the preciousness of these ingredients, Mag thought 3,000 copper coins each plate was already cheap. However, nobody would pay for such expensive fried rice, and he dared not advertise the origins of these ingredients. If elves found out that their holy spring was being used to water fields, he would be shot 100 times by even the most mild-tempered elf. Besides, others were no species to be trifled with either. The origins of the ingredients were best kept a secret. Maag hesitated for a moment and then decided. 600 copper coins for a plate, then I could make 304 coppers from one plate and 3,040 gold coins from 1,000 plates. Having made up his mind, Maag had no longer tied himself in knots over this thing. Anyway, this was only his first dish, and when he mastered the meat dish, raising the price would be no problem. If he set the price too high now, it would cause problems. Besides, the system had just said the second dish that would be unlocked after completing this mission was Laji Rugiamo. Since that terrible pancake was selling so well, the Laji Rugiamo would definitely be a good seller too. It would prove to be a good advertisement for the restaurant's reputation. Moreover, Amy had been so much into the pancake before, so she would be very happy to eat the Laji Rugiamo, which was 100 times better than the pancake. Just 1,000 plates of Yangzhou fried rice. I'll be damned if I can't sell them. Maag built up his confidence again, and while he was thinking about applying some marketing strategy and whatnot, the system's voice sounded suddenly. Please determine the price for the dish and the name of the restaurant. System will make the menu and change the name of the signboard. Yangzhou fried rice, 600 copper coins each, answered Maag immediately. As for the name, he thought for a while and then turned his head to look at Amy, who was still leaning on the table, watching the refracted light from the glass. I'll name it Mamie Restaurant. Mine and Amy's restaurant. Yangzhou fried rice, 600 copper coins each, and the name is Mamie Restaurant. Confirm. Modification in progress. Modification complete. The system's voice sounded consecutively. Maag noticed that an exquisite menu with a black leather cover was added to each table and a signboard was added outside the door. Its lower end could be seen from the kitchen. This system is pretty convenient, after all. Maag shrugged. It was just a shabby log cabin yesterday, and after one night, it had become a mid-range restaurant. Otherwise, preparing the decorations alone would have cost him several months. Maag efficiently cooked a plate of Yangzhou fried rice, filled a small bowl for Amy, and then walked out of the kitchen with a plate and the bowl. Looking at Amy, who was still leaning on the table with her eyes fastened on the glass, Maag put down the plate and the bowl and stooped down to the glass. They looked at each other through the glass full of water, and then he said in a lowered voice, "My princess, your rainbow fried rice is ready. Please enjoy. I have heard you. Coming right now." Amy looked up at Maag's smiling face and giggled happily. She felt today's father was so gentle and interesting, unlike before when he wouldn't speak all day long. "Eat." Maag put a little spoon in her hand. "Okay." Amy nodded. She took a look at the colorful fried rice before her, held the bowl with one hand, and started eating with her spoon. Maag also brought a spoonful of rice to his mouth. The tender but firm rice coated with tender eggs was mixed with every ingredient, and together they formed a wonderful taste that tickled his taste buds ceaselessly. He didn't know if it was because he had known the origins of these ingredients, but after meticulous tasting, he found that the taste of every ingredient was so clear, yet at the same time, they were perfectly mixed together. When he had swallowed it, it seemed the pleasant smell of the spring of life remained in his mouth. After finishing it all, Maag put down the spoon a little surprised and murmured, "My body feels kind of warm after this, but it's comfortable somehow, as if the cells are growing. My weariness is all gone. Maybe this is the benefit of the ingredients of this Yangzhou fried rice." After a plate of Yangzhou fried rice, Maag sat there, trying to feel the difference. As he had expected, the fried rice made from these precious ingredients had more than just a splendid taste. The most direct effect was soothing weariness. The fatigue from making the 2 plates of Yangzhou fried rice in the morning had vanished after that plate. He felt warm all over and more vigorous than when he drank Red Bull. It must be the rice. I'll be eating that rice 3 meals every day, so my strength will steadily increase, thought Maag. Among these ingredients, nothing was more precious than the rice watered by the spring of life. "Amy, how do you feel after eating that rainbow fried rice?" Mag asked as he looked at Amy. Half-elf blood is running in her veins, but the rice shouldn't cause any problems, I think. I feel the fried rice is very delicious. Amy put her bowl on the table and stuck out her tongue to lick the rice on the corner of her mouth while she looked at Mag and nodded earnestly. Mag got surprised and then smiled. There was nothing wrong with her answer. He asked again, besides the good taste and good looks, do you feel unwell somewhere? My body. Amy thought for a while and shook her head, but then nodded. Where? Immediately, Mag stood up from his chair and slightly leaned forward to look at Amy, his face a little worried. I just feel like a fire is burning in my body. It has happened before, but not as hot as now. I don't feel very well. Father, what happened to Amy? Amy looked at Mag, a little confused. Her face already turned a little red, but she still looked rather calm. Yet, Mag was a little terrified. He had thought that the rice watered by the spring of life should do a lot of good to Amy because she was a half-elf, but it didn't seem like that was the case. Instead, something bad seemed to have stirred inside her. Looking at Amy's red face, Mag couldn't come up with anything. It was nothing like a child's normal fever or cold, and he didn't find any solution in his predecessor's memory. He watched her face turning redder and redder, and all of a sudden, he remembered something. And then he picked up Amy's hand and said, Come with me now, Amy. We're going to the Grey Temple. But Amy retracted her hand and shook her head. Father, I seem to have figured out what I should do. She lifted her right hand before her, palm facing upwards as if holding something. Mag looked at Amy, a little confused. Amy, what are you? Suddenly, a bluish-violet fire rose from her palm and immediately went up for a half-meter. Its terrifying temperature even warped the air a little. Unconsciously, Mag practically fell back 2 steps, and even the chair was plowed down by him. He looked at the bluish-violet fire in Amy's palm, which was slowly leaping, and watched its flame diminish to a small bluish-violet fireball. Amy, are you hurt? Asked Mag immediately. The fireball was even smaller than Amy's hand, but its heat was a little terrifying. He could sense danger in it, and was worried about Amy, but he couldn't get close, so he grew more anxious. Amy shook her head. The redness on her face had decreased a lot. She looked at the fireball in her hand as if it were some interesting toy, and then she said excitedly, Father, I'm okay. Look at this fireball. It's so lovely. Is this magic? Mag breathed a sigh of relief. Amy's face was starting to return to normal. It looked like this fireball had balanced out the heat and discomfort inside her body. However, watching the bluish-violet fireball, Mag narrowed his eyes slightly. He was not certain whether or not it was magic. Shouldn't the flame of the normal fireball magic be fiery red? Amy saw Mag narrowing his eyes and got a little terrified. She shook her hand, and the fireball was extinguished immediately. Then she drew back her hand, lowered her head as if she had done something wrong, and said, Please don't get mad, Father. Amy's wrong. I'll never mention that I want to learn magic ever again. Then she peeked at Mag, her little face never more aggrieved. What? Mag froze for an instant by Amy's sudden behavior, but he soon found out why in his predecessor's memory. In order to hide who they were and to protect Amy, his predecessor had kept a low profile since they came to the Chaos City. When going out, Amy had to put on a hat that could cover her ears in order not to let anyone find out that she was half-elf. So, while she had shown a great interest in magic since little, she had been asked to strictly keep away from anything relating to magic, let alone learn it. Looking at Amy, who was aggrieved, with her head bowed, Mag couldn't help but feel his heartache. His predecessor had wanted to keep their heads down and let Amy live a normal life. He could understand that he was trying to protect her, but that didn't mean he approved of his method. Suppressing Amy's nature was something he'd never do. Besides, in his eyes, while lying low was not wrong, it was a lie to console oneself if one accepted mediocrity willingly. In his previous life, he had read about this. Being mediocre was not terrifying. The terrifying thing was, after a mediocre life, one still told oneself that the plain life was the single true life. Mag Alex's life was far from a mediocre one, but he had wanted to make Amy live a mediocre life, which was something Mag could not accept. The offspring of the once strongest knight of humans and the princess of elves. Could she be a genius? After all, the fireball magic just now was mastered by Amy herself. Based on his predecessor's memory, he wouldn't have met this kind of fireball head-on even in his prime. Amy was fiddling nervously with her index finger, her head bowed. Watching this, Mag's heart softened immediately. Such a lovely girl. Of course she can do anything she wants to. It's my responsibility to handle everything else. Amy, raise your head and look at me, said Mag, smiling. Amy hesitated for a moment, and then looked up at Mag. Father, Amy will not learn. Although today's father was very kind and gentle, she still remembered his angry face when she'd said she wanted to learn magic last time. She didn't want to make her father angry or unhappy. No, Amy, Mag interrupted, smiling. Looking into her eyes, he said earnestly, from today, I will not forbid you to learn magic. When the restaurant starts operating and we make some money, I will send you to the Grey Temple to learn magic. Amy froze for an instant. Really? Then she looked at Mag, surprised and a little dubious. Of course, Mag nodded. But it may take some time because the restaurant has just opened today. Father, you are the best. Amy loves you. Before Mag could finish his words, Amy had already slipped off her chair, jumped into his arms, held his face, and kissed it. Then she looked up at Mag, and with a serious look, she said, Amy will become a very powerful magic caster and protect Father. It's my wish. Mag looked at Amy in the eye and nodded earnestly. Okay, I'm sure Amy can do it. Then, smiling, he said, well then, let's open the restaurant first. Maybe restaurant our restaurant. Okay. Amy nodded obediently. She was just about to get off from Mag, but then she stopped immediately. Her eyes widened slowly as she looked at him. Father, you can hold Amy in your arms. You can hold Amy in your arms. Her eyes were shiny with tears, her face full of excitement. In Amy's memory, only in bed could she snuggle up in her father's arms, and she had never been hugged by him. She knew it was because of his body, but she had always wanted to experience the feeling of being hugged. Who would have thought that she would realize her little dream today? Mag smilingly touched Amy's cute little nose, nodded, and said, yes, I can hold Amy in my arms at last. I can also lift you up and give you a princess hug. I will do anything you want me to do. While holding Amy in his arms, he was very excited too. Sure enough, body is my first priority. I have to accomplish this mission. I don't want to go back to the state in which it's hard for me to even walk. Amy put her face to Mag's chest, nuzzled him like a little cat, and said happily, Father, you're the best. Mag pacified the little thing for a while. He was a little relieved after he had made sure that there was nothing wrong with Amy other than that bluish-violet fire she'd unleashed. Moreover, Amy had demonstrated it for Mag. She could unleash that bluish-violet fireball any time now, and she could do it with just a thought. No spells or time were needed. His predecessor didn't know much about magic casters, either, and even the mysterious princess of Elves was vague in his memory. Mag couldn't even recall her looks. He just vaguely remembered her as a powerful magic caster. Looks like she has got her magic talent from her mother. Instant fireball magic, her talent should be good. It's just she can't control it well enough now, thought Mag, stroking his chin. His predecessor's worries had not been misplaced. If Elves found out who she really was, he couldn't imagine what would happen. Whether putting her in harm's way or taking her away, it was unacceptable to him. The Grey Temple should be put on the back burner. Maybe I should find a more reliable magic caster and suss him out first, thought Mag. He didn't want to rush into making Amy learn magic. He had to be thorough about it. Mag picked up the black leather cover menu on the table. The leather was very smooth. He opened it. On the top left-hand corner of a plain light gray paper, he found a line of words written in black. Yangzhou fried rice, 600 copper coins each, plain and simple yet stylish. This system's taste is not bad. Mag closed the menu contentedly. Father, has our restaurant really opened today? Asked Amy, standing beside Mag. Yes. Opening the door means we start operating. Let's hope we can sell many plates of rainbow fried rice today. Mag smiled and stroked Amy's hair, and then he took her little hand and walked towards the door. Mag held the door handle, took a deep breath, and pushed it hard towards outside. The two small bells hanging on the door rang twice, and then the door was opened. The warm sunlight of early autumn spilled on the two very different figures standing outside the door, one big and one small, casting two long shadows onto the restaurant floor behind. Standing there, Mag looked at the signboard hanging above, on which were two big words in black, Maai Restaurant. Holding Amy's hand, he murmured to himself, "It seems nice to be alive again." "Father, what were you saying?" Amy looked up at Mag, a little puzzled. "I was saying, it's nice to have you, Amy." Mag looked down at the little thing who was even shorter than his waist, smiling lovingly. "It's nice to have you too, Father." Amy ran happily around Mag for 2 laps, and then, forming her hands like a trumpet in front of her mouth, she shouted towards the square, "Our restaurant has opened. Come and eat here. We have very delicious rainbow fried rice." Mag looked at his little girl and gave a reluctant yet happy smile. He was very happy inside, too. He looked to the Aiden Square. It was early morning, and there weren't many people yet. Not far on the grasslands, 2 large orcs with fangs were sparring with each other bare-chested. A little farther, 2 businessman-like humans were standing under a tree, talking. A tall elf hurried across with a longbow on his back, followed by 2 curious troll children. Mag looked at all this with a little surprise. While he had seen the face of every species in his predecessor's memory, the shock delivered was completely different when he saw it with his own eyes. Powerful orcs, crafty goblins, long-lived elves. It had all become so real all of a sudden, and he truly felt he had come to another world. It didn't seem as simple as he had thought to live an easy and comfortable life here with Amy. Mag lifted an eyebrow and turned his head to take a look at his restaurant. Since the restaurant had been set up in this chaos city, apparently it wouldn't just cater for humans. After all, elves, giant dragons, and demons were famous for having an outrageous amount of money. The Aiden Square was located in the center of Chaos City. When they built the city, the buildings around the Aiden Square had been arranged into the shape of the crescent moon to surround the round square. It was open to the south. From one end of this crescent moon to another, there were thousands of various shops, restaurants, forges, red light districts, arenas, magic shops. Any shop could be found here, as long as it existed on the Norland Continent. Their owners were also of various species. A hotcake shop might well be owned by lava demons, who'd bake hotcakes directly on their hands. After the peace treaty was signed, Chaos City was built to promote mingling among species. At that time, the continent was divided among all the species like a pie cut several times horizontally and perpendicularly, and they shared the same intersection point, on which Chaos City was built, so it was not an exaggeration to call it the center of the continent. Because Chaos City bordered with the lands of every species, it had 8 gates to provide entrances for all of them. Orcs, humans, elves, goblins, trolls, demons, dwarves, and giant dragons that showed themselves now and then lived together in the same city. This kind of chaotic inhabitation was how the city got its name. After the chaos in the beginning, a secret organization named Grey Temple appeared in the city and started to maintain the order. At the same time, it slowly changed the city into today's size and layout. The people in gray walking in the dark were the law enforcers of this city. Mag's restaurant was standing on the tail of the crescent moon, the last shop on the Aiden Square. Since the entrance of the square was on the other end, people seldom came here. Next to their restaurant was an arms shop, which Mag recalled was owned by a dwarf. Farther on were several closed shops with house to rent notice on their doors, and then there was a shop that sold magic potions, whose door had 2 bird cages hanging on it, in which 2 parrots were still sleeping. To say the customers were few and far between here was putting it lightly. Thinking about the chance of a customer being interested in coming through his door and ordering a plate of 600 copper coin Yangzhou fried rice, Mag suddenly felt that this start was pretty hard. Mag watched and waited for a while. While the few passers-by had shown some interest in his restaurant, which had totally different characteristics than the nearby shops, he didn't see anyone who wanted to enter for now. Mag went back inside, cleared the table, and went to wash the dishes, while Amy was sitting on the long-legged chair behind the counter, playing with the bluish-violet fire in her hand in high spirits, mumbling some spells all the while. After cleaning up everything, Mag went out of the kitchen, seeing that there was still no sign of any customers coming. He pulled up a chair beside Amy and watched her play with fire. Suddenly, Amy turned to look at Mag and asked, Father, if I threw this out, would it be like magic caster's magic? She raised her hand and made a throwing gesture. No, no, no. Mag waved his hand immediately. If she threw it out, even if the restaurant wouldn't be burned down to the ground, some tables and chairs would surely be damaged. And seeing how the system was mean with its money, the remaining 2,700 copper coins might not even be enough for restitution. Don't worry, Father. I won't really throw it out. Looking at Mag's nervous face, Amy burst into laughter, and then she shook her hand and extinguished the fireball. Mag let out a sigh of relief. He thought about Amy's question and nodded. If you can throw it out and actually hit the target, then it can be called the fireball magic. Amy shook her head, not very sure of herself. Amy is not able to do that. Don't worry, said Mag, smiling. He looked at her, eyes full of encouragement. Father will practice with you till I find a proper master for you. No one is born a magic caster. Amy is already very amazing because you can make a fireball all by yourself. I'm sure you can do it. Yes, Father. Amy will try. Amy nodded vigorously. Then she looked toward the door and said in a little confused tone, But why does nobody come and eat in our restaurant? Father, your rainbow fried rice is so good. Because they haven't tried it, they have no idea that it is that good. Not long after, I'm sure people would line up to eat here. Mag smiled, but he felt a little helpless inside. 600 copper coins was indeed a pretty high price for normal people, but the Chaos City was never short of wealthy people. Every species had a handful of wealthy people who loved thrill, often hung around in this city, and even came here for long-term settlement. After all, here, dwarves could enjoy the service of beautiful human girls. Trolls could find demon strippers. Even goblins might be accompanied by barmaids. Only money was needed. One could literally do anything here with money. If we have too many customers, Amy can help Father out. Amy looked at Mag with her shining eyes. Then what can you do, Amy? Asked Mag, smiling. Amy can help collect money. I learned arithmetic from teacher Luna the other day. She said I am very good, said Amy as if trying to be impressive. Luna? Mag searched in his memory and remembered immediately. Luna was a teacher working at Chaos School, which was owned by the Grey Temple. He had the impression that she was a young girl who loved wearing dark green dress and who was normally condescendingly cold to others, but a totally changed person when she was with the children. She would become very kind and amiable and was loved by them. Since Amy couldn't afford her tuition fees, she had no right to go to school. However, she often went to the Chaos School and watched them have class with her hands on the top of the outside wall. Luna liked her very much and often let her inside to listen with other students. Sometimes, she would teach her alone and give her something to eat, so she had left a pretty good impression on his predecessor. Yes, and if they won't pay, Amy will get angry and scare them with a fireball, said Amy, nodding. Get angry? Amy knows how to get angry. Mag didn't quite believe her. Amy nodded solemnly. Sure, I watched the next-door dwarf grandpa get angry, and then she put her two little fists in front of her face and widened her eyes to look at Mag. Pay now, or prepare to get punched. Father, my look is very angry, right? Amy asked, full of anticipation, as she maintained her posture. So cute. Mag felt that his heart had melted down, but seeing the anticipation all over her face, he had to refrain from laughing and nod his head. Yes, super angry. Amy put her hands down and said happily, Then leave the mission of collecting money to Amy from now on. I'm sure you do a good job. Smiling, Mag nodded. Okay, I'll leave it to you then. Oh, and Father will show you how to look angrier when I have time. He didn't turn Amy down, but her look was so cute now, so he had to carefully teach her sometime, or the customers would not be squelched. Then, Amy pestered Mag for a story. He told her the story of the little match girl. Amy listened with great interest, though Mag added and omitted some things. By the end of the story, Amy asked with great anticipation, Father, is the roast goose really that delicious? Mag nodded. Yeah, I suppose. But then he felt something was wrong. The point of the story was the roast goose in the kitchen cupboard. The story was over. They leaned on the counter, a little bored, their chins lying on the back of their hands, oblivious to everything around them. The looks on their faces were surprisingly in sync. Mag had known that the start would not be easy, but he hadn't expected that nobody would come for a whole morning. Only two demon kids had looked inside for a while from outside the glass window. At noon, Amy turned to look at Mag and said, "Father, Amy's hungry." Mag nodded, smiling. "I'll go prepare lunch." Then he went into the kitchen. It couldn't be helped. He couldn't make himself stand outside and yell and invite customers in. As for the attitude towards customers, he had more or less decided when he was sitting there. In respect of user experience, he knew even more than many who owned restaurants, though it was his first time being an owner. After all, he had tried so many restaurants in his previous life. A warm attitude might make people think that they were valued, but those who didn't like talking might feel uncomfortable, and a condescending and cold attitude would definitely leave a terrible impression on most customers. Going too far was as bad as not going far enough. Besides, his restaurant was relying on Amy and him only. Amy would have done more than enough if she could collect money properly, and receiving customers was naturally his responsibility. So, with regard to his attitude towards them, after he summed up his experience and also considered the current situation of the restaurant, he decided to follow 3 words: kindness, distance, equality. Kindness was the basic respect that should be shown to the customers. It would make them feel good before eating. As for distance, it was because Mag wanted to increase efficiency and because he had to make the customers who didn't like to be received overzealously feel comfortable. And equality would be shown to all species. Mag felt that anyone who chose to eat in his restaurant was his customer. No matter the species, he would treat them all the same. When Mag had just readied the ingredients for 2 plates of Yangzhou fried rice and the rice, the small bells on the door rang. "Maimi restaurant? Where did it come from?" Maai stood outside the restaurant, a heavy black hammer about his height slung on his shoulder. Sweat was dripping onto his half-bare reddish-black chest from his gray beard, and his face that had been baked into the same color by the stove was full of doubts. When he saw it yesterday noon, it was just a shabby wooden house in which lived a father and his daughter. The man was a cripple that could barely walk and had never spoken with him. The little girl was always wearing a gray hat, but she looked very cute. Sometimes she would squat outside his forge and watch him hammer arms. However, after only one night, that ramshackle wooden house had changed completely. It had become a very beautiful 2-storied house, and the whole front wall of the first floor was even replaced by a sheet of transparent crystal glass. The beautiful decoration of the restaurant could be seen from outside. For a moment, Maai did not understand what had happened. Even on this whole Aiden Square, no restaurant could be found that was more beautiful than this one. After all, that transparent crystal glass was so thin and bright that every table inside looked very clean and comfortable. The translucent crystal chandelier was even more exquisite than the one in the palace. Maybe the human cripple is actually a very powerful magic caster? He conjured up this restaurant overnight and decided to cook all of a sudden? Stroking his beard, Maai shook his head. The mind of cunning humans is certainly not easy to understand. But since it's near, I may as well try it. If it's good, then I won't have to eat far. He was certain that this restaurant was owned by the same father and daughter because he had already seen the absent-minded little girl sitting behind the counter through the transparent crystal glass. She looked more adorable today, without her hat. Maai pushed the door open, heavy hammer in his hand. The ringing of the bells on the door startled him. When he looked up and saw the 2 small bells hanging on the door, he laughed at himself and walked inside. The inside looked even cleaner and more comfortable than when he looked from outside. Grand though the decorations seemed, the brownish-gray background made him feel very comfortable. He didn't feel dazzled. Instead, he felt a little relaxed somehow. Maai lowered his head and took a look at his clothing, which had many holes in it due to the sparks, and his boots, which had thick dust on them. And then he looked at the clean and shining floor. He hesitated for a while. Amy's eyes suddenly brightened when she was leaning on the counter waiting for her lunch. After she saw who had entered, she turned her head and shouted towards the kitchen excitedly, "Father, we have a customer. Next door dwarf Grandpa." Mag had just readied the ingredients and was about to cook when he heard the ringing of the bells and Amy's voice. He looked at the door a little surprised. The door was opened, and in came an old dwarf with a heavy black hammer on his shoulder. He had short hair and long gray whiskers all over his face. His half-bare chest showed his strong muscles. His arms were as thick as the thighs of normal people. Lastly, he was wearing hole-covered clothes made from animal hide, with a worn cowhide wineskin at his wrist. This was the first time Mag had seen a real dwarf. He was more or less as tall as Mag's waist. Because of his strong muscles, he looked a little cubic like a box. He was the owner of the next-door forge, a dwarf blacksmith named Maai, and he was among the few blacksmiths in Chaos City. Dwarves had a long life. He should be more than 200 years old, but was still as strong and healthy as ever. His predecessor had closely observed the nearby owners and the people who were always wandering around this place. Although he might not know their names, he had a general idea of who they were. This was his first customer, so naturally Mag was pretty happy and expectant. He dried off his hands with a towel, went out of the kitchen, and looked at Maai, who stood hesitating at the door. When he glimpsed the grayish-black cowhide boots on his feet, Mag had known what to do. He didn't walk towards him to welcome him. Instead, he stood by the counter, stroked Amy's head to signal her to be quiet, and said smilingly, "Welcome. Would you like something to eat?" Maai looked at Mag and felt a little surprised. The man who had been hunchbacked and in shabby clothes was now wearing a decent suit. He was still lean, but standing straight. He had a temperament that was totally different than before. Human males were a little womanish in his eyes. He disliked them, especially those who were lean. However, standing there, this man looked like a sharp sword out of its sheath despite his lean figure. He didn't look womanish at all. He was no ordinary man. Moreover, the smile on his face that was a little warm hid a lot of that sharpness. This kind of contrast created a vague distance, which made Maai, who came here for the first time, feel rather comfortable. The little girl standing beside him was wearing no hat today. She was in a black dress, and her face was full of excitement and anticipation, being even more lovely than before. Maai couldn't figure out what had happened to this man overnight. It was like he had been reborn. He couldn't help but wonder what this human male was selling in his restaurant, and whether the food here could match the decoration. Maai stopped hesitating, nodded his head, and walked inside with his heavy hammer. He drew a chair to sit on, put the hammer on the floor, and looked at Mag. Then he said, "Yes, I'd like something to eat. What do you have here?" "There's a menu on your table. You can have a look first, sir," answered Mag, pointing at the menu on his table. "Menu?" Maai picked up the menu casually. On touching the cover with his callus-covered rough hands, he was taken by a little surprise. This kind of smooth texture meant the cover was definitely made from the best bison hide. A piece of bison hide like this one could fetch as much as 1 dragon coin. It was so extravagant to put such an expensive menu on every table. Even the Friar Tavern, which had the best business on the Aiden Square, was only using normal cowhide covers. This made Maai feel even more expectant. With a restaurant so grandly decorated and a menu so extravagant, he imagined the dishes here had to be rich. He liked good food the most other than drinks. It had to be said that humans might be weak, but in terms of cuisine, other species were definitely no match for them. Maai opened up the cover and looked at it with great expectation, only to be rooted to the spot. Such a big menu. Yet it was complete blank. No, not completely blank. On the top left-hand corner, Maai saw a line of small words. He narrowed his eyes slightly and read out in a low voice, "Yangzhou fried rice. 600 copper coins each." 600 copper coins? Maai froze for a moment. He blinked and thought that his eyes might have been dazzled from staring by the stove too long in the morning. He brought the menu closer and took another look, and on it still said, "Yangzhou fried rice, 600 copper coins each." Maai put the menu down and looked at Mag, face full of doubts. "Owner, your menu must be wrong." Mag shook his head smilingly and replied calmly, "It's not wrong. It's simply that we have just opened, so we don't have many different dishes, but more will be available later." Maai shook his head. "I didn't mean the number of dishes, it's the price. This Yangzhou fried rice costs 600 copper coins each. Do you use giant dragon meat to make it?" he said, pointing at the line of words on the menu a little irritated. He had thought that the decorations were great, and that the innkeeper was also not bad, but hadn't expected that they wanted to rip him off. Such small words they were. If he hadn't seen clearly and had ordered directly, he would have spent 600 on nothing. In Friar Tavern, 600 copper coins could buy him a large plate of roasted meat and 2 flagons of wine, and fill up his wineskin when he left. His good feelings towards Maag just now vanished immediately. Humans are indeed the best at disguising themselves, and the most devious. Sorry, we don't use dragon meat. But the price is not wrong. I think this Yangzhou fried rice is worth this price, and then some more. You're free to make your decision, sir, replied Maag, neither humble nor arrogant, but he didn't explain too much. Maag had expected that certain customers would question the price, but he had absolute confidence in his Yangzhou fried rice. It was not worth 600? If it hadn't been for the 1,000 plates mission, he would have set the price at 6,000 copper coins. This was a plate of Yangzhou fried rice made from the precious rice which was watered by the spring of life, and included various rare ingredients, with a cooking skill that people in this world could only look up to. Maai stared at Maag and suppressed his anger. Humans are indeed devious. They can remain such calm while spouting such lies. This restaurant style was indeed very good, but he valued the taste the most when eating. The appearance of the restaurant was not as important. He couldn't figure out what this Yangzhou fried rice was at all with just these 4 words. What is Yangzhou? Can rice be fried? He had tried every restaurant in Chaos City in the past few decades, but he had never heard of this dish. Maai stared at Maag for a long while, but Maag was very calm the whole time and didn't show any guilt or impatience, looking as if he was waiting for him to decide. He had run his forge for dozens of years and seen all sorts of people, but few had the same mentality like Maag, and none of them were nobodies. He couldn't help wondering, maybe this Yangzhou fried rice has some special taste and is truly worth 600? He hesitated for a moment, and then asked, "You said the price is not wrong, but can you guarantee that this Yangzhou fried rice tastes good?" Maag shook his head. "Good or not, it has a lot to do with personal preference. So, sorry, I cannot guarantee that. Even the best food could be found distasteful by certain people." Maag sighed silently as he looked at Maai's irritated face. "Looks like the first customer will not stay, probably." "What?" Maai got even more irritated. Other restaurants would go to great lengths to boast about their dishes, but look at him. He said he can't guarantee the taste. He can't even guarantee his food will be good. Looks like he is most probably a liar. If later I said it tasted bad, maybe he would argue it was my personal problem. This human is so devious. Guess I'll pass. At this moment, Amy, who was watching them talking all this time, looked up at Maag and pouted. "Father, Amy's hungry." Then she glanced at Maai with some dislike. "This dwarf grandpa is taking so long. The rainbow fried rice is so delicious, but he still hasn't made up his mind. Father would have made one by now." Maai was just about to stand up and leave when Amy glanced at him. He was too embarrassed by her disdainful look to stand up. The look on the little girl's face was saying so blatantly that he had taken up her eating time. "Right. I'll make the Yangzhou fried rice for you, Amy." Maag smiled and stroked his little girl's head. Then he looked at Maai. "You can take your time, sir. Please let me know when you have made up your mind." After saying that, Maag turned around and went into the kitchen to start cooking. Amy went back to sit on the long-legged chair behind the counter again. She rested her chin in her hands, blinked her eyes, and said innocently, "The rainbow fried rice is really very good. Amy loves it very much. Are you sure you don't want one, Grandpa? She's so cute." Maai felt that, at this instant, his heart, which had been steeled 1,000 times like the iron, melted a little. He almost shouted out, "Of course! Give me one." However, he thought of his questioning and irritating face just now. If he decided to eat the fried rice just because of her words, he would lose face. So he refrained from making that decision with great effort, crossed his arms before his chest, and answered in a cool voice, "I'll think about it and decide later." "Okay. Either way, you'll fall in love with that taste in a while." Amy shrugged as if having seen through everything. She turned her head away from Maai and looked to the kitchen with great expectation. "I won't fall in love with some Yangzhou fried rice," murmured Maai. Alt Sundara. He felt he had been despised again. He had been despised by the same little girl twice in one day, but looking at her cute little face, he could do nothing but forgive her. "I'll wait and see whether that Yangzhou fried rice is really that good, Or if this little thing has been corrupted by that human, thought Maai. Now he didn't rush to leave, but sat there patiently. Having practiced tens of thousands of times in the test field and twice in real life, Mag had only used 10 minutes to cook a plate of Yangzhou fried rice. When he went out with the plate, Mag glanced at Maai, who was still sitting there, with some surprise. He thought this grumpy customer had already left. Amy jumped off the chair, stared fixedly at the plate of rice on Mag's hand, and clapped her little hands happily. It smells so good. Father is so amazing. That is the so-called Yangzhou fried rice. It doesn't look very special. It looks good, but I can see no meat in it. It won't be very satisfying. Maai had some expectation before, but he felt a little disappointed suddenly as he looked at that fried rice. Mag put the fried rice on the table opposite Maai, and, smiling, he said to Amy, "Wash your hands first, and then eat." "Okay." Amy trotted into the kitchen, stepped on a little stool, and washed her hands. Then she trotted back to the table again. She climbed onto the chair, brought herself close to the plate, and took a deep sniff. Immediately, her big blue eyes became even brighter. At this moment, the aroma of the fried rice found its way to Maai's table. He couldn't help but take a sniff, and then his eyes widened immediately. He looked at the fried rice before Amy, not believing his nose. This aroma, how can it be so enticing? "Amy will start eating now," said Amy, holding a spoon in her hand. Then she brought a spoonful of rice to her mouth and chewed merrily, her face full of happiness from enjoying the good food. One spoonful after another, she didn't want to stop, her body shaking slightly all the while. Gulp! Maai heard the sound of himself swallowing his saliva. Unhesitatingly, he looked to Mag, who was standing near. "Owner, give me a plate of Yangzhou fried rice." Maai felt a little embarrassed after saying that. He had questioned the dish's taste in every possible way, and now he was asking for it on his own initiative. This turn of events was pretty awkward. Maai took a look at Amy, who was stuffing herself, and said to himself, because she was eating so happily, for a moment, I couldn't refrain from saying those words. He brought back his head that had been craning forward, and again said in a cool voice, "I don't really want it, but I think I have to show some respect to the little girl, so I'll try and have one plate." Mag nodded. "All right, please wait a moment." Of course, he wouldn't say too much at this moment, but he couldn't refrain from smiling when he turned around. His tsundere tone is really amusing. "Dwarf Grandpa, this rainbow fried rice is really very good." Amy swallowed down the rice in her mouth, took another spoonful, and added, "Look, it's very beautiful, right? Don't you feel like eating it very badly?" Looking at the golden egg-coated rice on the spoon, which was mixed with various ingredients, and the sky-clear eyes of the little girl who was still holding her spoon, Maai nodded subconsciously. Amy nodded. "Then watch me eat it." She opened her mouth to eat the whole spoonful, and as she chewed, she said merrily, "Yummy, yummy." Maai's mouth opened and closed. Watching the little girl opposite, who was again completely immersed in her fried rice, for a moment, he felt like saying a lot of things, but just couldn't make the words come out. If opposite him were a man, his heavy hammer would have already landed on his head. Yet, watching the little thing eating happily, he couldn't get angry at all. Instead, he felt that she was pretty cute. Maai was already hungry after a whole morning's hammering, and now he felt even hungrier as he watched the little girl eating happily. If his senses had been gone, he would have gone and robbed her of some rice. After a short while, Mag put the rice for two in the cooker and walked out with a plate of Yangzhou fried rice. He softly put down the plate in front of Maai and said smilingly, "Your Yangzhou fried rice is ready, sir." Maai was totally attracted to the rice before him. The strong aroma of the chopped green onions and eggs tickled his nose, and his saliva was starting to be secreted. He had never smelled such an enticing aroma from any food before. The rice grains were separated clearly and coated with a layer of golden eggs. On the surface was a little oil, as if shining in the lamplight. The colorful ingredients that had been chopped into the size of the rice grains had mixed with the rice to form a lively and bright color. So many ingredients, and they were cooked together with oil directly. There was no pepper or salt beside the plate. Perhaps it was already seasoned? Maai's concept of eating was completely torn apart. Mag was standing there, observing, calm on the outside, but also a little expectant and nervous on the inside. While Amy liked the fried rice very much, her previous favorite food was that pancake, so her opinion could only be used as reference. However, technically, Maai was his first customer, so his reaction and feedback were more important. Based on them, he could more or less figure out whether they liked the Yangzhou fried rice here or not. What's this cooking method? Will it be good? Maai was a little dubious, but driven by the pleasant smell, he couldn't refrain from holding the spoon and bringing a spoonful to his mouth. He chewed several times. The eggs almost melted down once inside his mouth. The grain-sized winter bamboo shoots and green peas were crisp and tasty. The egg-coated rice was so sweet after being finely chewed. The soft and tender ham was well mixed with the rice, and he seemed to have tasted shrimp in it. He could taste all the different tastes in this one mouthful, and he felt warm all over when he had swallowed it, with the pleasant smell of rice still lingering in his mouth. Maai's eyes brightened immediately. Delicious. This is so delicious. How can anything in this world be so delicious? Maai wasn't able to think about anything else. He couldn't help but bring another spoonful to his mouth, and then he simply held the plate with one hand and gripped the spoon with the other. One mouthful after another. He just couldn't stop his hand. 600 copper coins was expensive? No, with food this good, 1,000 was not nearly expensive to him. The roasted meat in the Friar Tavern was so coarse and plain compared to this rice. Perhaps he wouldn't be able to tolerate that burnt taste that he had put up with before from now on. It was as if this fried rice was elaborately made by a cooking master. He had tried all the different food on the Norland Continent in the past few hundred years, but it was the first time that he had eaten something as good as this. He had put all his suspicions towards Mag and the contempt in his mind from before behind him. Face and stuff like that were nothing before such great food. Moreover, much to Maai's surprise, after this fried rice, he felt that warm feeling was not a delusion, but very real. He felt very relaxed and comfortable all over, as if something were nourishing his body. The weariness from waving the heavy hammer for a whole morning seemed to be assuaged and relieved quickly. It was like he had drunk a bottle of recovery potion, except that this recovery was gentler and more comfortable, from inside to outside, and it didn't make him feel more exhausted after its effect wore out like the recovery potion, which made him think of the Elves' holy spring, the spring of life. Dwarf Grandpa, the rainbow fried rice is very good, right? Amy giggled happily. Watching Maai eating ceaselessly, she said, Amy told you you'd fall in love with its taste. Mag stood there, smiling. Maai's reaction had said everything. Even he couldn't resist the good taste of this Yangzhou fried rice, so Mag had no worry at all about whether his restaurant would be popular or not. This was a rather good start. Yes, I've fallen in love with this taste. Maai put down the plate and looked at Mag. Owner, give me seconds. It's really very good. At this moment, the voice of the system sounded all of a sudden. System recommends you apply the limited purchasing strategy. It would highly raise customer expectations and stickiness. Mag was taken by surprise. He responded by asking, System, aren't you only responsible for selling ingredients? System is mainly responsible for supervising you learning cooking skills and supplying necessary ingredients, stressed the system, appearing a little unhappy with Mag's remarks. Well then, you'd better do your job and sell the ingredients. This is my restaurant. You want me to apply limited purchasing strategy instead of making money. Are you taking me for a fool? I've got the mission to complete. Mag curled his lip. He wished someone would eat 100 plates. Mag went into the kitchen. The rice he had put in the cooker before was just ready. He scooped out some and put it into a bowl to let it cool a little, then used his credit account to buy the ingredients for 1 plate of fried rice, and started to prepare the second one. As to the purchasing limit, Mag would not consider it right now. His mission of selling 1,000 plates was no easy task at all. However, if his restaurant became very popular in the future, the purchasing limit was a pretty good strategy to show respect to customers in order for more people to have the chance to eat good food. As for the system's recommendation, he believed the system was trying to set him up and that it most likely wanted to make him half disabled again. System suggestions are all for you to go far on the path of the god of cookery, said the system suddenly. Mag raised an eyebrow. He hadn't expected that the system had read his mind, but it also made it easier for him. He asked, System, in order for me to go far, I'd like to make a suggestion too. Please, answered the system. I think you should sell the ingredients for half the price, said Mag solemnly. The ingredients supplied by the system are all from... I feel the same about your suggestion. Mag cut the conversation short before the system even finished its sentence. An ellipsis went across Mag's head. Mag curled his upper lip slightly and went back to processing the ingredients. He had been famous for his vicious tongue back in the day. He had never lost once when facing a band of people who criticized him. He had no fans whatsoever. Talking back to the system was like taking candy from a baby to him. Maai was sitting there, feeling the changes in his body. After finishing the whole plate, the warm feeling was starting to fade, but the feeling that his weariness was relieved didn't vanish, but still remained. It was so real. He clenched his fist and felt almost the same as when he woke up in the morning, very energetic. Maai quickly did the math in his mind. This should have the same effect as a half bottle of middle-grade recovery potion, and it has no side effect of making me feel near the end of my strength. The price of a bottle of middle-grade recovery potion is 20 gold coins, and I have to use one bottle every day. But 2 plates of this delicious Yangzhou fried rice only cost me 12. Besides, it has a much better effect. From this point of view, it's absolutely worth the money. The result brightened his eyes. To forge a weapon, he had to wield that heavy hammer which weighed nearly 100 gene more than 10,000 times. High rewards meant hard work and great skills. Maai was not nearly as resilient these years as when he was young. In order to do his job, he had to drink a bottle of middle-grade recovery potion, which tasted very awful, every noon. However, he had grown dependent on this thing, and because he had used it for a long time, he had already felt that his body was being eaten away. At this rate, he could only maintain his accuracy for 5 years at most. The day he lost his accuracy, the reputation that he had built in this chaos city in the past few decades would be gone too. While he had saved a lot of money from forging weapons, a weapon could fetch at least 1,000 gold coins. He was very clear that the money he had saved was not nearly enough for what he wanted to do. 5 years was not enough. He needed to work very hard every day for at least 10 years to earn that money. This Yangzhou fried rice was like a silver lining on a cloud for him. He had found an opportunity all of a sudden. I'll try another plate. If its recovery effect is really good, then I'll eat here every day. It had pained him a little to spend this much money on the fried rice, but compared to that awful potion that made him want to throw up, if this amazing Yangzhou fried rice, which only cost him a little more than half of the former, had the same recovery effect, then it clearly was not a difficult choice he faced. Amy had just finished eating her plate of rice. She licked her lips, looked at Maai, and said smilingly, "Dwarf Grandpa, didn't you say just now you wouldn't fall in love with its taste?" Her face was so pure and innocent. Maai's old face reddened from Amy's stare. He feigned coughing several times and said, "I was just testing the owner to see if he was confident in his skills or not. I'm surprised that he has no confidence even with such good cooking skills, so I am helping him boost his confidence now." "Really?" Amy looked at Maai, a little dubious. Maai nodded solemnly. "Sure. I'm not the kind of person who judges the food distasteful before eating." His tone was a little proud. "I hope so." Amy gave Maai an unhappy glance, slipped off the chair, and went into the kitchen with her plate. I. Maai felt like he had been despised again. It seemed like she had seen through everything with that unhappy glance. When he heard Maai's tsundere words being refuted by Amy easily, to the extent that the dwarf had nothing to say in reply, Mag couldn't refrain from smiling. "She's really talented. That's my girl all right. Her vicious attribute only needs to be developed a little, and with her cute little face, she could criticize them to such an extent that they would even doubt themselves but couldn't get angry. This feeling is wickedly cool. If you want some more, I'll cook more for my lunch and give you some," said Mag smilingly, taking the plate from Amy and putting it aside. "Father, you're the best." Amy looked up at Mag, her little face full of adoration. Her father had been like a changed person since she woke up yesterday, so kind and gentle. Looking at the father and daughter in the kitchen from outside, Maai froze and went into a trance for a moment. He saw a scene in which a little boy was looking up adoringly at a man who was wielding a heavy hammer in front of a stove. He hadn't seen him for so many years and didn't know how he was doing. He felt he owed him a lot. Mag nodded, smiling. Go and sit outside. Father has to cook for the customer. Okay, answered Amy obediently. She went out of the kitchen, climbed onto the long-legged chair behind the counter, and looked at Maai with her chin in her hands. Don't worry, dwarf grandpa. Your fried rice will be ready very soon. Just wait a little longer. Maai, who had just snapped out of his reverie, nodded. Okay. He looked at Amy and for once slightly smiled. Mag put down the plate before Maai and smiled. Your fried rice, sir? Maai nodded. Okay. Watching the fried rice exquisite like art, he brought one spoonful to his mouth with great expectation. Its taste was as magical as before, and the warm feeling arose in his body again as he swallowed it, nourishing every part of his body. It's indeed effective, and much better than the middle-grade recovery potion. Maai's eyes were filled with a pleasant surprise. Maybe it was because the first plate had already relieved a lot of weariness he had, but he felt the second one was not only soothing his weariness, but was also nourishing his muscles that had been worn year in and year out. Certain parts of his muscles were always aching like hell on rainy days, but he felt very comfortable right now. Though this nourishment was subtle, it was as if a pair of warm hands were massaging his body. Without even finishing it, Maai suddenly lifted his head to look at Mag. Owner, I'd like one more plate, please. There was some respect in his eyes. Mag was really taken aback. While the Yangzhou fried rice was good, one plate's volume was not small. 2 plates were more than enough, even for those who could eat a lot. Maybe dwarves were built with a larger stomach? Mag had his doubts, but didn't show anything on his face. He nodded. Okay, please wait a moment. He picked up the empty plate from the table and went into the kitchen. Maai was eating the fried rice, one spoonful after another, with his head lowered. The more he ate, the happier he felt. He hadn't expected that such delicious food would have a better recovery effect than the middle-grade potion. At this rate, he felt that maybe it could even restore his condition to his prime and that he could work another dozens of years. Wow, dwarf grandpa, you're amazing. You could eat 3 plates. Amy opened her mouth slightly and looked at Maai with some envy and adoration. Maai lifted his head and took a look at Amy. For the first time, the little girl wasn't looking down on him with a disdainful look. He even felt a little flattered and sat up straighter unconsciously. He ate another mouthful and said, This kind of fried rice, 3 plates are nothing to me. I could eat 4. Really? You could eat 4 plates? Amy's adoring look was more obvious, and her eyes were starting to shine. Maai hesitated for a moment, but looking at Amy's adoring eyes, he couldn't refrain from nodding. Of course. Immediately, Amy turned around and shouted towards the kitchen. Father, dwarf grandpa said he could eat 4. Make him another one, or he won't eat his fill. Wait. Maai looked at Amy, her face full of an innocent smile. Somehow, he felt that something was wrong. After hearing Amy's words, Mag turned to look at Maai. Is that so, sir? He was very calm on the outside, but on the inside, he was already laughing. If he hadn't known Amy's character, perhaps even he would have suspected a little that Amy was a scheming girl. Well, Maai was a little embarrassed. While he could eat more compared to normal people, he felt more or less full after 2 plates of fried rice. 3 plates were definitely enough for him, and the 4th one would probably make him feel a little too stuffed. Dwarf grandpa, you told me you could eat 4 plates, so Amy will not like you if you go back on your words, said Amy earnestly, her chin in her hands. Maai wanted to slap himself. Why did I brag about that without thinking? It wouldn't pose a problem if she were someone else, but watching the expectant and earnest face of the little girl, he just didn't want to lose face. After hesitating for a while, he clenched his teeth and looked at Mag. Yes, give me one more. Wow, you said it. Dwarf grandpa is so amazing. Amy clapped her little hands happily, her face full of an earnest smile. Maai consoled himself in his mind. To hell with it. I rarely eat something as good as this, so it's a kind of happiness even if I'm too stuffed. Besides, looking at the bright smile and adoring eyes on Amy's face, he suddenly felt his vanity had been greatly satisfied. One more plate of fried rice was really nothing to him now. Mag nodded. Right, please wait a moment. He started to rinse the rice and make the third plate of fried rice. Then he turned around to look at Amy's back, eyes full of love. It was all thanks to her that his first customer stayed and ordered 4 plates of Yangzhou fried rice. Mag served the 2 plates one by one, and Amy watched Maai finish them with fixed eyes. Maai gave a contented burp as he put down the spoon. With 4 plates of Yangzhou fried rice down, he felt warm all over and not as stuffed as he had thought. A feeling of contentment arose from the bottom of his heart. He felt as if his life had been fulfilled at this moment. Mag stood there and saw the food he had made eaten by someone happily until nothing was left on the plate. A sense of achievement arose in his heart, and he felt very happy too. Turns out being a cook is not that bad. Before Maai knew it, Amy was already at his table. She held out her hand as she looked up at Maai, and then she said solemnly, "Dwarf Grandpa, if you have had enough, please pay. It's 2,400 copper coins." "Okay, but I don't have that many copper coins." "I'll give you 24 gold coins," said Maai smilingly. He fumbled out a purse from his clothes. "Gold coins?" Amy froze for an instant, and then she turned to look at Mag. "Father, 24 gold coins and 2,400 copper coins, which is more?" Mag looked at Amy and smiled. "They are the same. 1 gold coin is worth 100 copper coins." He was surprised that she knew how to do the 4-digit addition, but it seemed she didn't know how to convert the coins. "I see." Amy nodded thoughtfully. "There you go. 24 gold coins." Maai carefully put a handful of gold coins onto Amy's little hands, and they formed a pile. "Wow, they're so beautiful." Amy's eyes brightened completely. Cradling the coins carefully, she walked slowly to a table, put them down, and counted one by one. Maai tore his eyes away from Amy, picked up his hammer, and stood up to look at Mag. "Your Yangzhou fried rice is very good." "I didn't get your name." "Mag," answered Mag smilingly. "This customer has a tsundere attribute and a fiery temper, but in fact he's fairly easy to get along with and very straightforward." Maai glanced at Mag with a little surprise. Very few people didn't say their surname when introducing themselves, but a lot of people in this chaos city were concealing who they were because of various reasons. He being one of them, so he didn't really take it to heart. He nodded, smiling. "Then I'll call you Mag. I'm Maai. You can call me Old Mo. I'll eat here again." Mag smilingly nodded. "Right? See you around then." When Maai was about to turn around and leave, he stopped and looked at Amy. "Little girl, call me Grandpa Maai, not Dwarf Grandpa." "Okay, Dwarf Grandpa Maai," answered Amy without even lifting her head. She was too absorbed in counting the gold coins. "Naughty girl." Maai shook his head, turned around, and walked out. The little thing could always make him speechless, but when he stopped to consider it, she was always right. Besides, she was so adorable. There was simply nothing he could do about her. Mag cleared the table and looked at Amy, who was counting the coins over and over again, her eyes shining. It looked like she not only liked good food, but she liked money too. A little chowhound and miser. It was hard to think of her as anything but a cute little thing. Mag went into the kitchen with the dishes and started to prepare lunch for himself. A moment later, Mag went out with a plate of Yangzhou fried rice and saw Amy, who had been counting the coins in high spirits just now, bent over the table with dull eyes. She heard Mag come, looked up at him with a sad little face, and said, "Father, Amy is useless. I couldn't even collect money for you. I couldn't be of any help, right?" Mag froze for an instant, and then realized that it had to be because she had failed to collect money completely by herself, and felt she hadn't been much of help to him. Mag put the plate on the table. He couldn't help feeling his heart ache a little as he looked at Amy's sad little face. It seemed the little girl was still not very confident in herself. In fact, he felt Amy, who was just a little more than 4 years old, was already very amazing to do this kind of thing. Looking into Amy's eyes, Mag shook his head solemnly. "Who said so? Why would you think that, Amy?" "It's mostly because of Amy that we have sold 4 plates of fried rice today. Besides, you've counted right to charge 2,400 copper coins. But Grandpa Maai didn't have that many copper coins, so he had to use this more beautiful and valuable gold coins to pay instead." "Really?" Amy's eyes became brighter and brighter as she listened to Mag's words. but she was still not very confident. Mag nodded. Of course. It's my fault that Amy didn't see any gold coins before, because I didn't make any. If someone is to blame, it's me. I didn't tell you sooner that silver coins, gold coins, and dragon coins are the same as copper coins. All of them can be used to buy things. It is me who should reflect on this lapse. I hope Amy can forgive me. An expression of self-reproach appeared on Mag's face. Amy shook her bowed head. No, it's not Father's fault. Father's very good to me. She was a little upset. Teacher Luna has taught me before, but so many copper coins becoming so few gold coins, I just couldn't make myself do it. There's so many, so... Mag lifted an eyebrow and almost burst into laughter. Amy's explanation was so lovely, but he felt a little depressed as he looked at her timid look. The external environment had a great influence on one's character, especially on those who were at an age of slowly molding their values and habits, like Amy. Between the poor life before and the contempt that humans and elves showed half-elves, she felt a little inferior and was not very confident. The good thing was that Amy was still little and that this kind of mindset was just a bud, so Mag believed he could slowly help make her a confident little girl. I won't let Amy be laughed at and looked down upon from now on. I'll make her the apple of my eye and my happy little princess, said Mag to himself. Speaking of mathematics, this world's level made him a little worried, for it was even worse than the random foreigners from his previous life. Even doing the addition and subtraction of numbers which had more than 2 digits would take them a long while. Considering that even basic education was not universal in this world, this was not very surprising. Suddenly, Mag came up with an idea for building up Amy's confidence. Apparently, China was one of the countries with the highest average level in math on Earth. As a rudimentary knowledge, the multiplication table the ancient Chinese people had invented had made a great contribution to the world. Mag reached out to stroke Amy's hair and put the small bowl in front of her. Smiling, he said, "Eat this, and then Father will teach you a multiplication table. After you master that, you'll be even better than the students in the chaos school, and collecting money will be much easier." Really? Better than those big brothers and sisters? Amy's face lit up immediately, and she looked at Mag in disbelief. In her eyes, those big brothers and sisters were studying under Luna every day, and they were all very good. Mag nodded. Sure. When did Father lie to you? Amy nodded her head and answered earnestly, I know Father will never lie to Amy. I'll learn carefully. Then she started eating, looking at Amy eating in a manner that was so adorable. Mag picked up his spoon and started eating too. The 9x9 times table was very magical, and if Amy mastered it, she could easily beat those kids who were still counting on their fingers. It was the first step to boost her confidence. After lunch, Mag took the dishes to the kitchen. He really didn't want to touch them as he looked at the oily plates in the sink. After hesitating for a while, he asked the system, do you sell dishwashers? System is not an appliance store, answered the system. Just cut to the chase. Do you sell it or not? I'll pay for it. Mag curled his upper lip. The system was silent for a while, and then a quotation appeared in Mag's head. Basic dishwasher, it can clean 5 plates and 10 spoons at one time. Price: 3 gold coins. This system is really a money grubber. It has no principles whatsoever. Mag rolled his eyes. He had seen through this system. Yet, the price was fairly acceptable, so he asked without thinking, so cheap? Then I want one. Charge it to my account. Then another line of words appeared in his head. Done. The dishwasher is in place. Looking at the silver dishwasher which was already plugged in on the cooking bench, Mag's eyes brightened. It seemed very high-tech. He opened the top, removed the several plates and spoons from the sink, and put them in the dishwasher. Then he pressed the start button. Less than a minute later, the top opened again, and the plates inside were already clean and shiny. Modern technology was indeed very convenient. Mag put away the plates and spoons contentedly. Amy was standing by the kitchen door. She looked at Mag in great anticipation and said, Father, what are you going to teach me? The 9x9 table. Wait for me here, Amy. I'll go get some paper and a pen. We'll try to learn some today, answered Mag. It seemed there wouldn't be another customer in a while, so he went upstairs and fetched a pen and a sheet of paper. Then, He sat at the table and wrote the stair-shaped multiplication table from memory. This world's characters were clearly different from those on Earth, but the universal characters were a bit like the Oracle Bone script, and the numerals were the same as Arabic numerals. The development of civilization was always having some amazing similarities. Maag had inherited his predecessor's memory, so he had already mastered this world's characters and language. Father's handwriting is very beautiful, Amy exclaimed as she watched Maag write down the multiplication table. She clapped her little hands with adoration. She had thought Luna's handwriting was the most beautiful, but now she found that her father's was even better, each figure like the one on books. Amy's praise and adoring eyes made Maag feel that his 1 hour every day spent on practicing handwriting in his childhood was suddenly worth it. Finally, someone appreciated his good handwriting. He smiled and said, "Then I'll teach you how to write someday if you like." Amy nodded happily. "Yes, teach me someday." She looked at the rows and columns of figures, a little confused. "Father, is this the 9 by 9 tables?" "Yes." Maag smiled. He took a look at the neatly written stair-shaped table. The rows and columns were very orderly, and the handwriting was very clear. Then he put down the pen. "It has 9 rows and 9 columns, so it's called the 9 by 9 table." Amy has already learned the basics of addition and subtraction, so it won't be very hard to learn this. "Then what's that little cross in the middle?" asked Amy, pointing at the X, a little confused. "It's called a multiplication sign, and means the process of calculating by multiplying. It's simpler this way," explained Maag. He asked Amy to sit beside him and then push the 9 by 9 table towards her. "Only Father knows this 9 by 9 table. You only need to memorize 81 terms and learn the decimal system, and then you'll be able to handle almost all the calculations in life." "Wow, Father is so incredible." Last time, Teacher Luna told Amy that I have to memorize 1,770 terms in order to learn the multiplication table. Amy has only remembered about 100. Amy looked at Maag with great adoration. She hadn't thought that her father not only had a good handwriting, but also knew a simpler way of calculating than Luna. She felt her father was so amazing. Maag knew that he shouldn't show off when he was standing on the shoulders of ancient Chinese sages, but he felt so good as he was adored by his own daughter. He smiled and pointed at the first term on the top left-hand corner. "We'll learn the first column today. These 2 figures beside the times sign are factors, and the figure behind is the product, the result of the calculation." Maag carefully explained the constitution of the 9 by 9 table to Amy. She indeed had known some basics on account of Luna's teaching. At least she knew the meaning of every figure and had some concept of addition and subtraction. There was no numeral system in this world, though, so it had taken him some time to make Amy understand the meaning of the numeral system. The most consoling thing might be that Amy had no doubt whatsoever about Maag's words, even if they completely tore apart what Luna had taught her. She listened to him unconditionally and quickly accepted the concept of the multiplication under the decimal system. 111,122. Read Amy after Maag. The little girl's memory was pretty good. She had already memorized the first column after reading after Maag for a dozen times. Maag struck while the iron was hot and had her read the whole 9 by 9 table after him to present to her a whole concept. "But, Father, what's the point of memorizing this?" asked Amy, looking up at Maag, a little confused after reading a few times herself. "Well, it's very useful." Maag smiled and pointed at the multiplication table. "Our Yangzhou fried rice is 600 copper coins each, and that is 6 gold coins. Grandpa Maai has just had 4 plates, so it will be 4,624. You can calculate the result immediately and don't need to count your fingers. Isn't it very easy? It really is 24 gold coins." Amy's eyes brightened immediately. It had taken her a long while to calculate in her mind that she should charge 2,400 copper coins before, but her father had figured out the result with ease. This 9 by 9 table was so amazing. She said enthusiastically, "Father, I want to learn. I want to learn this 9 by 9 table. If I master this, I'll truly be able to help Father." Maag nodded, smiling. "Okay, we'll learn 3 columns today and the rest tomorrow." When learning new things, initiative and enthusiasm were the most important, and Amy had both. Maag was certain that she would master the 9 by 9 table in no time. He spent his noon helping Amy remember the 9 by 9 table. Nobody entered his restaurant other than Maai. It showed how isolated this corner on the Aiden Square was. Yet, after having sold 4 plates of fried rice, Mag felt quite relieved. At least he didn't have to worry that the people here wouldn't like its taste. From Maai's reaction, he had known that the effect the fried rice had on the muscles had also worked on him. So maybe he would become a regular, which was very good news. 3-4-12, 3-5-15, 3-6, 3-6, 3-6. 3-6 is too difficult. Amy looked up at Mag, a little upset. It was the 5th time that she had been thwarted here, tears in her eyes. Okay then, let's stop here at 3-5-15. Amy baby is already very incredible. Normally, very few children can remember the first column for the first time. We'll memorize the rest tomorrow. It's best to do it step by step. Mag picked up the paper and stroked Amy's hair, smiling. It made him remember a video, which he had watched in his previous life, about a little girl crying as she tried to remember the 9 by 9 table. Sure enough, the same problems were always appearing at the same age. Really? Amy had thought that Mag would reproach her, but when her father said that she was better than other children, her eyes brightened again. Mag looked into Amy's eyes and nodded earnestly. Sure. When did father ever lie to you? Amy nodded. I know. Father will never lie to Amy. I'll try my best to learn the rest tomorrow. A confident expression as well as a bright smile appeared on her face. Mag put the 9 by 9 table behind the counter. It was already past lunchtime, so it was very unlikely that anyone would come. He took a look at Amy's hair, which was a little messy, went to the door to turn over the open sign, and locked the door from inside. Then he grabbed Amy's little hand and said, Come, father will give you a bath and turn you into a clean little fairy. Do we have to prepare the hot water first and take the wooden barrel? Asked Amy, looking up at Mag. Mag smilingly shook his head. No, we have hot water coming from the pipe and a bathtub upstairs. Like the tap in the kitchen? Asked Amy, very surprised. The thing that her father called tap was very magical. Fresh and sweet water would come out if it was turned. It was like magic. Mag nodded. Yes. Then he took her little hand and went upstairs. Amy was just starting to know this world around her, so she only felt curious about the modern things in the house and wasn't very confused. Even though she was seeing the bathtub for the first time, Amy got used to it very quickly. She sat in it, fluttering her 2 feet and giggling as she held the white bubbles in her hands. Looking at Mag, she said happily, Father, this bathtub is so much fun, and these bubbles have a very good and pleasant smell. Yes, this is the body wash for bathing, and in my hand is the shampoo for washing hair. Your hair will be clean and have a fragrant smell after being washed, said Mag, smiling. He clumsily rubbed the shampoo on Amy's hair with his hands and said softly, Close your eyes. You'll be very uncomfortable if it gets into your eyes. Okay. Amy wants to have a good smell like father. She closed her eyes obediently. Mag rubbed Amy's hair softly. He might be clumsy, but he was very meticulous. He carefully separated the hair that had been stuck together. Actually, Amy's hair was very smooth. Bathing children and washing their hair was indeed not very easy. Mag's clothes were almost soaked after bathing Amy. He looked at Amy, who was in her bath towel, and her little dress aside. He became a little worried. He asked tentatively, System, do you sell clothes?